Hello! Hopefully you can all hear me. We've got lots of new people with us today, so hello to each and every one of you. If you are with us new, you've never been here live, I have to wait 20 to 30 seconds to make sure I am actually live. So I'm waiting for the thumbs up from my trusty assistant here, Mike. You want to say hello to everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Excellent. Oh, good. Excellent. Even better. Right. Okay. Lots and lots of chat. So as I say, hello to each and every one of you. And if you're watching later, hello to you as well. Right. Today, we're looking at working with images. So let's get on with it. We're broadcasting in 1080p HD. Make sure you're watching in that scale. YouTube has a habit, sometimes even taking videos as low as 360. So if everything looks a bit blurry, it shouldn't. So make sure in the lower right hand corner, you click down there and make sure you choose the option with the red flash. While you're there, there's a like button. And we like the like button, so do feel free, either now or at any point during the session, to hit the like button. Right, if you have never heard of me, I'm Elaine Charles, long-time Affinity user, and I teach Affinity online. I have used all of the Affinity apps every day since they were first released in beta in 2014. We were discussing that the other day, Mike and I, that on the one hand, it seems like yesterday, and on the other, you think, whoa, 12 years. A long time. Right. Everything that I talk about today is as relevant for Windows as it is the Mac. Obviously, my platform is a Mac. If there are any differences, I will point them out. But there is literally only a handful of differences. Whenever I say command, if I forget, just substitute that for control on Windows. Now, the best thing you can do if you're training something is set expectations at the beginning. This session is not about editing images in Affinity by Canva. Now, I didn't used to have to say that because the applications were separate. When the applications were separate, if you were editing a photo, you would be in Photo. And if you were laying out images and working with them, you would be in Publisher. But now it's a single application. I thought it'd be good to clarify. So if you're watching and you're thinking, oh, image editing, bring it on. No, it's not that. The good news is that there's lots of things that it is. So the rest of the session is going to show you plenty of other image-related features. I will be editing one image, and that's it. But all of the other things I'll be doing, there's plenty to cover. Linking versus embedding, people seem to get confused with that, so I thought we'd get that out of the way at the beginning. Then I've got picture frames and picture frame options. Text wrapping, pinning images, and why you would want to do that. Custom picture frames, and then advanced custom picture frames, as well as the number one question I get, which is multi-page spreads and or wraparound cover images and how to handle those. Another question that I get a lot of the time is about image captions and creating a table of image captions. I do have a bonus today, you will be glad to know, and it's editable files. Oh, how exciting. Right, Q&A. Put your questions in the chat as we go. We will collect them ready for the Q&A at the end of the session. If you can remember, please put a Q at the beginning. It just makes life a little bit easier so we can find the questions. And give us as much context as you can. So if you're referring to a particular dialog box, tell us which one. Because as you've already discovered, we are 30 seconds. I'm 30 seconds ahead. I'm in the future. So what you're hearing now will happen 30 seconds ago. So it's very easy to get confused as to what people are talking about. So just help us so we can help you. Right, we love to read the chat. We do. So please keep it friendly in there. I know 99% of the time you do. I had a snotogram this week, Mike, did I tell you? Oh, I got a comment and it was downright rude. So let's not have any rudeness in the chat. You be as rude as you like to me. You know, if you want to send me a snotogram, feel free. But I ignore them. So there you go. Right, working with images in Canva. Right, as I say, we are going to start with linked versus embedded images. So first thing I need to make clear, as I've just said, when we had photo and you opened an image, you were editing that image, the actual pixels inside Affinity Photo. That is a different business than if you are taking images and embedding them in a layout document. So now the application is a single application. We still have the concept of linked and embedded images. We also have the context of editing images. But I'm talking about layout, and this would be where you create a document and you want to put an image in the document. So the default behavior is to embed files. That is the default that is set up when you create a new file. And what happens with that is when you add an image, it takes a copy of the image and it puts it inside the current Affinity file. And what that looks like is this by comparison to linking files. So the default is embed. You drag and drop an image in, or you could insert it from the stock panel and it embeds that file inside your Affinity file. The alternative is to link files. Now, there's a slightly different behavior here. If the image that you have dragged and dropped into your file is on your computer, it will link it from where it is. If you download it from stock, then it's going to need to know where to put it at the point that it is linked. And that can happen in one of a couple of ways, but I'm going to show you this in practice anyway. Now, the obvious question is, should I link or should I embed? And whenever I do a demo, I tend to embed. Right, there are benefits to that. There's also some disadvantages to it. But if you embed a file, you know where your files actually are. That saves you time relinking if they've somehow become unlinked. The downside is that your Affinity file becomes larger, which makes total sense. It's a container that contains anything you put inside your file, which would usually be things like maybe global color palettes, maybe text files, maybe text styles. All the things that you add to your file increase its file size, but nothing will increase the file size quite like embedding images. So it could be that you end up with a huge file that you notice some kind of slowdown with or something like that. Now, if you want to link files, then you get a smaller Affinity file size. It also enables you to put your images in a cloud service and then have a cloud-based workflow. If there's just you developing a file, benefits of that are sort of, well, maybe not. But if you want to work collaboratively, you could send a tiny file to your collaborative partner, and if both of you have access to the cloud-based location where the images are, you don't have to send the images. So the files are much smaller. Now that is a standard workflow with linked and embedded files. I use an application called Hindenburg to edit audio files. Audio files being absolutely huge. But when I send my editable file, it's about 5K. It's really tiny. But the 3 gigs worth of audio files, they're in a cloud service. So if I send that off to be edited externally, I only send the tiny file. They already have access to that. So that is something you might want to think about if you are working collaboratively. You do get with linked files an optional update opportunity. Or you can say, if this file is updated outside of my Affinity file, I want you to automatically update it. Now, why is that so important? Well, if the image that you've embedded is a logo, and you have 500 files with your corporate logo on it, or your church logo, and the logo is updated, do you want to go back through 500 files and update them manually? Probably not. That might be where it would be better to link the files. You still have the option whether they're updated or not, but if it is a logo and you need 500 files rebranded, that's going to be the fastest way to do it. But notice the single con on this. It is easier to lose files. That would happen in one of 2 ways. If you moved a file independently of your Affinity file, the next time you open your Affinity file, it's going to be upset and it's going to say, I can't find this file. And you would then need to relink it. So there are benefits, there are disadvantages, it just depends. Let's go and have a look at it. So I've got Affinity open. I've got lots of panels flying around all over the place. But what I'm going to do is show you creating a file first of all. Now, this is the opportunity where you get to say whether you want to treat files that you add to this file as linked or embedded. So this is an A4 RGB. This is a preset. It's not a template, it's a preset. Remember, your templates are going to be in here, my template section. Right? What we've actually got here is a preset. So looking across here, it's the A4 preset. And looking down, we've got a colour format and profiles. But the most important one we're looking at today is the image placement. And the image placement is prefer embedded. Now that is the default, as I say, but you can go to the settings. And I do believe somewhere in here, there is an option to switch that. So it would always be linked. It's somewhere in there. Shall we try linked and see if we can find it? Right, oh, it's in there, is it? Let's have a look. Open on startup. It's one of these, I think. You'll find it in there anyway. I leave mine set to embedded. Right. You can, at this point, make lots of other changes. So you could add multiple pages, you could add margins, you could add bleed. We're not looking at all of that today. What we're looking at is this. This is the first opportunity you get to change that. But I will leave it set to embedded at the moment and show you how you do that retrospectively. Because you may already have files and think, I wish I'd chosen the other one. So at the moment, prefer embedded and create the document. And we just have a one-page A4 document. Right, there is nothing on here at the moment. At this stage, you have access on your context-sensitive toolbar to a document setup option. When you click that, it opens up something that looks similar, but it's not identical to the File New dialog. And in here, you have the opportunity to make lots of different changes. You can change the model from facing pages. You've got all of the usual stuff. What we're interested in is the resources. And you can see this is where it says prefer embedded. Now notice here, we actually have multiple options. This first one is referring to images. So we could in there prefer linked. That's how you change it. But notice underneath, we now have an option. This is new in version 3. Import text files as linked. So just as you can do with images, link to them rather than embed them, you can now choose whether your text files are linked or embedded. All of the same caveats apply. If you move the text, you'll lose the link. If you edit the text, it could overflow the frame. There's advantages, there's disadvantages. Choice is yours. But these are resources now rather than being treated as just images. And that is how you would change it. Simple as that. Now, you may think when you come to do it, oh, it's not working. It's not working. I've tried it, it's not working. So let me add a text frame here. And I think I had some text. Yes, the quick brown fox jumping over the doggy. Right, there we go. So at this point, I've got some text. It's overflowing, that doesn't matter. It's principle that we're going to learn. Right, why up here do I no longer have the option to go in and edit my document properties? And it's simply because you have a different tool active. Your tools are available on the left-hand side. Because I added a text frame, and it could be anything, it could be artistic text, could be the pen tool. Either way, whatever you have selected on this left-hand tools is what you see up in the context-sensitive toolbar. It changes depending on what tool you have selected. And if you want to see the document properties, you need to make sure that you have, in this case, I've got the Move tool, and I click away from anything else. So even if I have the Move tool, but I have this text box active, I've got all the text-based tools at the top. Context sensitive. Sensitive to what you have selected, what tool you have selected. But if you have nothing selected, you can get back to your document setup. And I'm going to go back in and say I want those embedded, and OK. Right, at that point, I can start adding the images. I can either drag and drop them from my system, or I can use the stock panel. So I have the stock panel available here. let's look up, I usually do dogs, so let's do cats. Right, here we go, we've got some cats. Now, when it comes to adding an image, you may be tempted to think, that's the cat, that's the fella I want, drag and drop the cat. Now, you can do that, but usually these images come in quite large. You then have to scale it. And I will be looking at this more in a moment. It doesn't matter for what we're talking about here, whether I've just dragged and dropped it and it's an image that is being treated as a layer with a very long, hideous name, or whether I had a placeholder to put the image in and I then dragged and dropped the image to that. I'll explain the difference between these two. But right now we have images, 2 images added in different ways. This one does not have a frame. This one does. But both of them are embedded. So at this stage, I'm going to save this file and I'm going to put it in the LinkedIn embedded. This one is embedded. So I will call the file embedded. Right, at this point, I will do a file save as, and I will call this linked because we're about to change how they're embedded. Well, embedded or linked, how they're attached. Now, at this point, just going in and actually changing it in here won't make a difference, or it shouldn't do, to what we've got in there right now. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to change it to linked again. And I will make a little frame so I don't have to rescale things. And we'll add that ginger one there with a very cute face. And there he is. Right. How do I know what's linked and what's embedded? Good point. Right. You have available to you under Document, Resource Manager. When you open that, it's actually embedded the lot. That's interesting, isn't it? Right. It tells you what type of placement you have. Shows you the image and it shows you whether it's embedded or whether it's linked. I would have expected the last one to be linked, but never mind, we'll fix it. Right, remember this file was saved. Now I can't remember if I saved it after I added the ginger cat, so let's just save it and go back again. Right, all of them are embedded. So we'll keep an eye on this in terms of what file size we've got here. So the embedded file was 7 meg. That was because it only had 2 images in it. This one has 3 images in it and it's 9.3 meg. Right, let's make some changes now. So in here, if you select one of these, you get the opportunity to make it linked, which will take an embedded file and extract it. So if I choose make linked, what it says is choose the folder for your linked images. Now, you could, at this stage, think, well, that's my file, linked. I could just put it in the same place, and you could. Or you could make a subfolder, and then all of those would be together. So you have options, but what we'll do is we'll just link it to this folder that the linked file is in. Right, now we have 1 image that's linked, and we have 2 images that are embedded. At this stage, I am going to save the file again. And let's go back and have a look at the size of it now. What's happened now? Well, this is the file that we've linked to. So we've externalized it. Interesting. Despite the fact we've externalized that image, the file's actually got bigger, which is an issue that I get a lot of questions about. My file just keeps growing. I know. It's just the way it does it. We might be able to reduce that. So I'm going to go back into here and get these 2 images. And what we'll do is we will make those linked. And again, you get the option in here to choose where. So let's do that. And all of them are now linked. You'll notice in the document it doesn't make any difference. They don't display differently in the layers. They don't display differently in the document. It's purely architecture in terms of what does that now look like in our structure. So let's go and have a look. Now we're getting somewhere. Right. When we had 2 files embedded, it was 7 meg. These are the files that we have added, and our linked file is now less than 1 meg. So we can manage to shrink that down. So if you find that your file is absolutely huge and your computer's struggling with it, then maybe exporting to linked images is the way to go. Right, So that is the best practice that we've got. You can either link or you can embed. You can go the other way. So if we go back to your resource manager, if they're linked, you can change this and change them back to embedded. It's completely up to you. Other things you can do in here, and for this one it won't make that much difference, but you can choose to locate these in the document and it will actually highlight it for you and select it in the layers panel. Notice though it's selected the actual image that is inside a picture frame. More on that in a second, but that's what it's doing. Now, here's the problem that you would have. So I've saved that file and I've closed it. Right, over here, you come along and you think to yourself, what on earth are these images? Right, so you look at that and you think, oh, that's a ginger cat, right? You could at this point be thinking, I'll tidy this up. You know, future you might be thinking that past you didn't know what you were doing. And what you'll do is you'll take those 3 images and you'll make sure that you know that they're linked images. Right, so new folder with selection, and we will call that linked images. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? The file's called linked. These are the linked images. Right, let's open the file now. It didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. So what it's saying is some of the linked resources are missing. Do you want to locate them? And you've got a yes, I want to locate them, which will actually bring up the opportunity to locate them. You can say no and carry on working. That won't have any negative impact apart from if you look at the images, they're all blurred. And they're blurred because it can't find the originals. What it's done is it's got a thumbnail size copy and it's using that to give you an indication of what is actually in there or should be in there. The resource manager option at the bottom will open the resource manager. So you've got 3 options. You could say no and carry on working. You could say yes, or you could open the resource manager. I'll say yes, and what it will do is it will open the folder that the file is in. There's the link file. I can go into here and I can say, yeah, that's where they are. Right, I can select one, or can I select multiple ones? It doesn't look like I can. That's annoying, isn't it? So I would open that and notice that for every file, I have to go through and open it. In fact, that one just isn't right at all, is it? Let's do that via the resource manager. Right, so they're all linked in here. What I would need to do is relink. So notice you can go and find it in the document, but it's a poor thumbnail. I can relink it. Now this one is the ginger one. Now this says select the folder for the relink. So it's doing different things. If you selected relink, the first one, the reason that I got the ginger cat was that I clicked the wrong image. But in here, I don't have to choose an image. If I use the resource manager, I can just select a folder and do that. And at that point, it has relinked that one. This one is saying linked. And that one is saying linked. And it's saying that the status is okay. So if you have a choice, if it's one image, by all means, just go and find it. If it's multiple images, use the resource manager because it's faster. And at that point, close that, and these are now back to being pin sharp images. So the first thing that you could have done was move the images. Right, I'm going to save that file now. Remembering at this point that we've relinked them. We've not embedded them. So I'm going to go back to my Finder. This time, I'm going to go in here, and I'm happy with where they are, but that one is the ginger cat. So I think at this point, I'll rename that. I will call it Ginger Cat. Then at least I know which is which. You should know what's coming at this point. If I then open up my linked file, it's going to be complaining, right? Some of the images are missing, is what it's saying. So I'll go to the resource manager and have a look. Well, this one's okay, and this one's okay. This one is missing, and indeed it is. But I don't, when I relink it, have to necessarily relink it to, I'm just thinking here, it's saying choose that. Well, that's interesting because I renamed it. So let's have a look what it does. It's still saying it's missing there. So I would need to replace that one. This time, notice that these files are lit up, which means I can choose the one that I renamed. So it's all my own doing this. It's my own fault. But it's very easily done. And at that point, the status is okay. It's linked again, and I'm good to go. So those are the impacts with linking and embedding images. I'll stop at this point and say, have we got any questions about that at this point? We do have questions, so away you go, Mike.
All right. Alex says, can you switch off the constant suggestions to link if you know you want to embed?
Oh, I wish you could, because it drives me mad. But no, I haven't found a way to do that. What happens is you tell it you want to embed and you start adding images. And once it gets to a certain size, and I don't know what that size is, but you've added 2 or 3 images, it says, are you sure you want to do this? Because the file's getting big. But obviously you know what you're doing. And you say, no, I know exactly what I'm doing, go away. And then maybe 2 or 3 images later, you get the same dialog box. And no, I wish that was something you could actually turn off totally, but I've not found a way.
Okay, Joe says, embedded or linked, instead of linking the logo, an asset would be equally as good?
An asset would update. Do you mean a symbol?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then Alex says RE link logos, would making the logo a symbol give you the same effect?
Right. Assets live inside the application. So I do have an assets panel here. Let's open up the assets panel. Oh, you're showing, are you? I don't see you. Right, table of contents. We don't need pre-flight, do we? So let's close pre-flight. Somewhere in here. Assets. Ah, there we go. There's the assets. Right. If you have an asset in here, the assets live inside your application. So this is your assets panel and they live in here. So for instance, signatures. There's my signature, right, that I use a lot. So that is an asset. That will not automatically update at all. It will always look like that, whether you've added it from the assets panel, whether it's in the assets panel, unless you choose to update it in the assets panel, in which case the update will only apply to future use, not past use. Symbols would automatically update, but symbols live within the file. So 500 files, you'd still have to open 500 files and update the symbol in each one of them. So there are, although there seems that well, there are multiple ways. There's the assets, there's symbols, and there's linked files. You think there's a lot of overlap between them, and there is, but the only one that would automatically update is the linked file. So if you did want to update the logo, if you wanted to do it across multiple artboards in a file or multiple pages in a file, a symbol would work. What it won't do is work across multiple files. What else have we got?
Mike Brett's made a comment on that. I never thought this would get so complex, Elaine. In my opinion, this is a good case for sticking with embedding unless forced otherwise.
I always embed because I move my files a lot and I don't want to think, where did that cat go? And then have to go and find the cat. So to keep it really simple, yeah, embed it. Simple as that.
And last question, Renee says, is linking equal to save as package? And if not, what's the difference?
No, it's not. Save as a package explodes everything into a different file format. Make a note, Mike. Don't forget, I will do a demonstration of that at the end. Okay. Saving as a package is a different kind of thing. The idea is that it saves out fonts separately. It saves out images separately. It's not interchangeable particularly. It just depends. If you want to give the content of your file to somebody because they're going to rebuild it for you in InDesign or something like that, it's the perfect file format to use. But in terms of linking or embedding, no, it's not the same.
Right. Well, that's it.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Have we got another one? Right, go on.
From SFN, if you added an image from assets, is it linked or embedded, and do you get the choice?
I would say it would be embedded because the asset itself, you would actually drag that in. So this one here, let's have a look what it's saying in the resource manager. So let's go to document and resource manager. And what have we got? It's not even mentioned. Now that's because that's not an image. That is a shape. Looking at it, it's text, so it's even editable. So that's not an image. So what I would have to do is go and find one of these that has got an image in it. And none of those are images. Okay, let's add the cat and we'll see what happens. Or maybe I'd need to do it separate. That's a very good question, actually. Right, what I'll do is I will select the cat. Now, if you've not looked at assets and you're thinking I'm losing it here, don't worry. I'm only doing this to see the question. You can see it's put the picture frame in there. And the idea is, with an asset, that you then drag and drop it onto your content. So it's another way of adding content without having to go and find it in your Finder or your Explorer. So you would drag and drop it on like this. At this point in this file, I would not be able to tell you with that because it's already linked or embedded. So if I got a new file, that would be set to embed. If I dragged and dropped that in, and then I opened up my document resource manager, what's it saying? And it's saying embedded. So it may follow the rules you set up at the beginning. To be 100% sure of that, we'd need to go into here and choose linked, add our image. I think that's embedded, I'll be honest. Because I'll explain why if it is. Are you embedded? You are. Even though I selected link, it's embedded. Right, the clue to me was when I dragged and dropped it from the assets panel, it did not prompt me for where to save it. That's an indication it's embedding it. So it looks like it's embedded, which would have been my guess. But now we know for absolutely sure. So we okay now? Right, okay, that's all the questions at that stage dealt with. Right, let me close those. That was linking and embedding and all the things that can go wrong with it. Right, let's head back into here because the next thing we're going to look at is picture frames and the picture frame options. I've touched on this briefly already. Now we're going to deep dive it. Right, I said, let's get a new file. Right, now at this stage it's embedded. So what I said was you could go and get an image from stock and drag and drop it onto your document. And then you need to start moving it around because 9 times out of 10 it's going to be far too big. So there is a cat that I have got from stock. And I also, in my Finder, where's my Finder disappeared to? Hiding from me. Right. I've also got images that I can drag and drop from my Finder. So I've got a text dropping one somewhere. Where are you? Why is it your images disappear, Mike, when you're looking for them? Right, I don't want to use the same images, and I know I had another image. And I'm wondering where... Oh, there it is. Right. I've got another image. So this is dragged and dropped from my Finder. There's no difference between these two images in terms of the mechanism that was used. There is the one I've dragged and dropped from my system, and that is the stock image, and they are both embedded, but they are not inside a picture frame. So over here in the tools panel, we have two picture frames. We have the rectangle tool and we have the ellipse. The difference is, so let me draw this out here. Right, back into my stock, same image, drag and drop that into the frame, and you can see it has cropped it. So this was the full image, it's cropped off his left ear. But what it has done is something really useful and totally different. This one at the top is just an image dumped on your page. If you want to work with that, if you don't want all of this negative space on the right-hand side, you'd have to crop it out. You can do that because we have a vector crop tool, which I can activate and show you that is how you would crop it. But it's very manual and it doesn't need doing if you use the picture frames. So the difference is this cat is just dumped on the page. This one is placed gently and carefully into a picture frame, which is why we have the slider at the bottom and we have the handle in the middle. Right, the handle means I can just move that within the frame. It is constrained to the size of the frame. Doesn't mean I can't change the frame and make that bigger, bring the cat back. I can do that, but it's just the way it works, and it means that you don't have to manually start cropping and moving and all kinds of things. You don't need to do that. So I'll shrink that down, move him back again. That's what the controller in the middle lets you do. This controller lets you rotate just the image. So you could rotate that. Silly story. Many years ago when I was using Corel Ventura for layout, it was pre-InDesign. InDesign didn't exist, never mind Affinity. and I had a logo for Windows 95. Don't shoot me. The Windows 95 logo, I put it in the thing, and it was all right. Somehow it got rotated. It looked a million times better. It really did. So rotating it can look quite good. When you look at that, yes, it's got the edges cropped off, but there's nothing to indicate it's actually in a frame and you've done that. That might be an artistic decision. Also, the rotation is quite handy. I'm bringing it back so it's at 0. But it's very handy when you use this at the bottom, which is your scaling. So we could zoom into the cat and move him into the middle. But at that point, if you were to rotate it, move it a bit like that, you can see that you've got the whole image is just cropped in a different way. Now, I did get a question, which was, this slider at the bottom is very imprecise. It is. I will be honest with you. It is. But if you do it slowly, obviously I'm doing this, and it's making it bigger and smaller. If you slow down and you move, you should be able to see that the zoom, let's zoom in a bit, make sure we can see it. So I'm very slowly doing that, and you can actually scale, and it stops at the 5 mark, I think, or it does if you're further out. You can actually scale that by a percentage by just stopping it like that. But if you want to scale the image precisely in terms of pixels, or you just don't like the slider, you do still have options to do that. Because this picture frame, which is the container that has your photo inside it, has the photo inside it. There it is, inside that. So when you're on the outside and you scale it, so if we wanted the width of that to be 150, it scales the whole frame. The cat stayed the same size. Right, let's undo that. Right. But if I select the image, let's go into there, you can see the size that already is. If I wanted that to be, let's say I wanted to add, well, I could make that 400 for a start, which would make it bigger. Notice the actual image resizes. So when you go in and you think, I'll make that bigger, there's a difference between making the picture frame itself bigger and the image inside the picture frame. You can be as precise as you like with the image inside the frame by making sure it's selected in the layers panel first. What you can then do in here, so that says 400 mil. You can actually do maths in here if you want. You could take 150 off that. So I've put minus 150. When I press enter, it calculates it for me to 250. I can then, in here, making sure I've got the picture frame selected, use this to move the cat. So if I am told by a client what size they want it, you make the frame, you can then size that image as precisely as you like. But if you've tried doing it, because by default these are folded up, so there is an indication that this one is just a dumped image and this one is just a dumped image, because it doesn't have the disclosure triangle or the little icon telling you it's a picture frame. But you may think, well, if I select the France one and I want to resize it, then I just resize it and it resizes. And when I select the cat and I resize it, it's not doing the same thing. I'm losing the cat. That's because you're resizing the frame. If you want to resize the image, you actually need to select the image itself, and then you can resize to your heart's content. You can even move it around without using the handle, as long as you have the image itself selected. So I always say that an image frame, a picture frame, gives you superpowers. It gives you the ability to rotate, it gives you the option to move, it gives you the option to scale. It also has another use as far as I'm concerned, which I have shown you before. I will very briefly show you this as a little bonus. Right, so in here, in my templates, in my MacBytes folder, I have my MacBytes After Hours show summary. Right, I can't fill this in until the show, obviously, but I do have placeholders for the contents, and there is the beginning of it. And when I put images in here, you can see that's the first image. So it would say the week at MacBytes headquarters, and it would have a date on it. But I then add a lot of content. And when I add the content, I want to add images to it. I may have the images already, I might not. So what I'm going to do is, will this work? I think it will with filler text. So what I will do is show you if I add a few pages, doesn't matter how many, they're going in after the first page. And what I'm going to do there is add some filler text. So text, insert, filler text. And it should put some text in. And why aren't you? Should we try that again? Right, insert, filler text. Right, there we go. We have got some filler text. Right, this filler text, I am going to link to the next page. That is purely to get some text. Now, we've talked about assets, and I do have some assets. This is another use for a picture frame. If I have a picture, I can drag and drop it in. I don't need a picture frame. But what if I want a placeholder? So in my MacBytes here, my MacBytes assets, I have at the bottom a picture frame that is a placeholder. So I could have that here, and you can see it's moving the text as well. I could put it in here and it would push the text. That's for when I don't have the image. So another use, a really useful use, you'll pardon the pun, for that is to use as a placeholder. In addition to being used as a placeholder because I don't have the image, I am able to make sure that it's the right size. That's one column. That's two columns. That's a one column image. I can add a background colour to it, so if I preview, I can still see it. And the other option is that it automatically wraps the text around it. It does not do that by default. So I don't want every time I add an image placeholder to have to go in and add a text wrap to it. So that is a really good time saver. And that's why using it picture frames is a really good idea. So let me lose that one and just show you the other option that you have here before we go on and do clever things, which is you also have the option to have an elliptical picture frame. I held the Shift key down, both Windows and Mac, to make sure it was a perfect circle. If you don't, then you can create ovals of it like that. And it works exactly the same way. But notice at this stage, those are the only options that you've got. You have a rectangle, which if you hold the Shift key down, you can create a square image, or you can have a circle or an ellipse. Those are the options that you have. And those, I've gone through the benefits of why to use these. Right. And let's head off here and look at, before we look at customizing them, the text wrapping. So you saw there in that MacBytes one, magic happened. I dragged on a placeholder, didn't even have an image in it, and everything wrapped around it. Whereas that is not the default behavior. So let's go and see that. So in here, shall I start again? No, we'll be fine. Right, so what I'll do with this is we'll make that a bit smaller, and I will work with the images that I've got in here. We will get better demonstration files as we move through it. But what I'll do at this stage is add in somewhere for the text to go. So I will just add a text frame in there. I did have the quick brown fox, didn't I? So there we go, there he is. Now, what's happening in here? Well, this one is a proper picture frame. This one was just dumped, and this one was dumped. But the text in all the three cases is sitting over the top. Why is the text sitting over the top? If you noticed in the MacBytes one, even when I added a standard frame, it was behind it. Right, it depends on the stacking order in here. This is your text. So I will name that text so you are aware of what is what. And if I put it behind these images, then the images take priority and they sit higher in the stacking order. It doesn't matter for text wrapping whether they are in front or behind. I tend to put the text at the top. It makes logical sense to me, but it doesn't matter. Right, what you would need to do is open up the text wrap dialog box, which I think it's in here. Let's have a look. Text wrap. Right, it is that one there. Text wrapping, show text wrap settings. And you might think nothing's happened, but it has. Here it is. Right, it's a different dialog box. So let's get the assets out of the way, not looking at those at the moment. We are looking at this. And this gives you all the options to wrap text around your images. Right, this image was just dumped on the page, remember, not in a picture frame. Doesn't matter. If we go in there and we apply a tight text wrap, it will wrap the text around it. So the picture frames are wonderful. They have superpowers. They are not absolutely necessary just for text wrap. Right, then the next one, which is a picture frame, and I'll do the same, and it will push the text out of the way, and we'll do the last one as well. This one will do something different. So we'll put it in the middle of the text. When you apply text wrap, I would say 90% of the time it's probably a tight text wrap, possibly square, just depends. But you do have all of these options. The default is none, which is what we've got now. We've done tight, which it pushes the text to the right, the left, the top and the bottom. You've also got inside and edge. Inside is bizarre. Edge isn't much better, leave them alone. You could say square. Now, because this image is square, square and tight will give you the same. But jump pushes the text above and below the image. So if you wanted to feature that image in the middle of a paragraph like that, you could. Now, I would say in here, whatever text wrap you apply, don't leave it at that. Look at the rest of the options. You have at the bottom the distance from the text. Because if you look at some of these, so if we change that back to tight, look how close the lazy dogs are on the right-hand side to that. Very, very close to that image. That is what the bottom option enables you to do. The left-hand side doesn't look too bad. The right, not great. But if we look at the left, if we want to control it a whole lot better, make sure it's selected, and then in here, start applying a distance from the text. So we can push that text on the right-hand side further away. Think of it as literally pushing it away, push the text away from the image. And these do not need to be the same size. You could do crazy things like that. Again, most of the time, I would suggest you'd probably want them to be the same. Rather than going in here and typing it 4 times, you have this link icon. That will link the edges. It doesn't do anything if they're already different. But at this stage, if you thought, 11's far too much, let's have it set to 5. You type 5, press Tab or Enter, and it will apply 5 to all of them. That's what the link icon is for. 5's probably a little bit too much. I find 3 works quite well. Now, the other thing you can do, in the middle you have wrap to, and the default is both sides. So the text is being pushed away 3mm, but it's wrapping on the right and the left. You can say largest side. And what that will do is, whichever side has the most space, the other side will be left blank. So it won't make any difference here if I move it to the right. But once I get it to the middle, it twangs and the text then moves to the right-hand side and the gap is on the left-hand side. So that is what the wrap to option in the middle does. Now, this one was an image that was just dumped on the page. This one was the one that was in the picture frame, and it's identical. It is identical in here. I would set that to 3, and then I could move this around, and we would see the text on both sides, or I can say on the largest side, and then move it. All the options are identical for the text wrap. It doesn't matter whether it is in a picture frame or not. That's how the text wrap works. Okay. Right. Next thing we've got is pinning images, which I have briefly touched on in other sessions. I will show you in here what not to do. Oh, there's a gotcha. There's always a gotcha, isn't there? I remember when I tried this for the first time, I'm like, what's wrong with this? Why is it broken? Why is it broken? It's not broken. Well, is it broken? Is it a bug or is it a feature? Could be either. Could be either. I will show you the gotcha. Right. So pinning images. At the moment, I'm going to make these images smaller. So let's have him in there and let's shrink him down a lot. Now notice when I shrink him down and he's off screen, he is there, he's just outside. So you need to move him back into the right place. Right, closing that wrap was a good idea, wasn't it? Not. Because now I need to see them. Because in here I would want it on both sides. Right, there we go. Now, did we put a wrap on him? We did. So I've got all these images with wraps on. Right, pinning. The problem we've got with this, let's look at the whole page, is I know the text is only sample text. As I say, I've got a better demo down the line. This is purely a demo, as we always say. It is just a demo, extract principle. If I were to take this paragraph here, or type something new, but I've copied that paragraph. And if I let me put something new in, let me put it down here. Right. I don't like typing in a demo, but this is text added in the demo. Right. So I've now got a sentence there. Let's copy that and multiply that like that. And what's happening is the text that was near this image of the cat has moved down. If there is enough text added in the demo, so we'll add twice as much, the text about that cat could end up on a different page. It would be nice if the image moved with its associated text. That would be great. So that's what pinning is all about. There is a dedicated pinning panel. This is what it looks like. Not exciting initially, is it? Right, but what we need to do is you would grab something, in this case, this image here, and you would click the pin option. And a pin springs out from your image. Now, it places it at the end of the previous paragraph. But this here, if it moves, I want it to move with this second paragraph. So instead of the quick brown fox in here, we'll put the cat paragraph. So we know that that is where it should be pinned to. All right. So in here, there's the image, there's the pin, and there is the text that says the cat paragraph. Right. We know on my clipboard, I've got that this text is added in the demo. So I'm going to go up there and press enter, and straight away you should be able to see what happens. The image moves with it. If I paste that in, it keeps going. Now this one, it's ignoring at the moment. We will sort that one out in a minute. Let's get it out of the way. But no matter how much text I add, that will move down the page. And that is the essence of pinning. So in this circumstance, let's say I want that attached to this paragraph here. So I'm going to go in there and we'll put Paris at the beginning. I'm not trying to spell Eiffel at this stage. Right, Paris at the beginning of it. This one, select it, pin it. Again, it puts it at the end of the last one and I move it to the beginning of the first one. We add anything in there, could be text or just space. It will move with it. Right, that's okay as far as it goes. Right, so what's the problem? Now, those two were dumped images. This one was a frame. It works exactly the same way. I don't even have to have that in line with the text. It could be hanging outside here in this blank area, and if I go and put extra content in there, that cat will now move. So where could you possibly go wrong with this? You'd think. Right, this is the issue that you would face. So let me get a blank page and show you. I don't want you sitting there scratching your head for 3 weeks trying to work out what was wrong with it. So I've got a text frame, and this is what I would do when I'm prepping. I'd add a text frame, and rather than go and get my own text, we have the ability to use filler text. So we can, in the text, go to insert and filler text, and it will give us text that we can play with. In previous versions, you couldn't edit this. So you couldn't format it or do anything with it. You can do a little bit more with it in here now. But really, it's to give you an idea of what that would look like. And then I could go in here and I could grab the cat and I could put the cat in here. And you can see the cat's got wrapping on it and it's moving, right? So as I move the cat, the text moves. Everything is great. But what I'm doing in my way is I'm prepping pinning. so I've got my cat. I would like to pin my cat. Let's pin my cat to this paragraph here. So the cat there, hit the pin, it adds a pin, sticks it at the beginning of the top paragraph. Right, and if I then add anything, then the cat technically would move, wouldn't it? But let's say that what I want down here, so I'll undo it so we can see it actually happening again. I'll move this down here. I want the cat moving. Why aren't you undoing that properly? Right, get rid of it. Undo it. Right, that. Right, so the cat is down there and I want to pin the cat to this paragraph so I can see it moving. This is the fastest way that you could prep for yourself. However, I select the cat, I add a pin, and it adds it at the top. Not a problem, we can move the pin, can't we? You've seen me move the pin. So we grab the pin, and we move the pin to the beginning of this paragraph, and it doesn't move. You cannot practice pinning with filler text. Filler text is not a real text, and it will never pin anywhere with filler text other than the top of the page. So if you're creating a template and you think I'll just use filler text and then I'll wipe the text out later and I'll just leave the image, no, that's not going to work. Not with filler text, it's not. Just to prove the point with this, if we take away the pin, and I don't think this is logical. Everywhere else in the interface, when you delete something, there's a bin. It's usually at the bottom of the panel. Over here, no bin. But we do have this at the top where you can remove the pin. So that is unpin rather than bin it. Okay, so this is our text and it's filler text. We don't want filler text. Let's get rid of it and let's paste from our clipboard. Oh no, that was the added one, wasn't it? I want the dog's text. Here we go. There we go. There's the dog. Right, so at this stage, I copy it and I paste it in like that. And now, same image, same location, same text frame. The only difference is that it's not filler text. When I put that in, it pins it not to the top and I can move the pin. So it's not you if you're trying this and you use filler text. It's the way that Affinity works. Filler text can't work with pinned images. Just something to be aware of. Right, and that is how you handle the pinning. Okay, did I save that? I'm not sure where I did with this, but we'll stick it in there. And that was pinning at that point. Right, okay, let's get back in here. Right, we're heading back to look at custom picture frames. So we've done the two things that are hugely beneficial when you have picture frames in terms of wrapping text around them and pinning those frames or the images to a custom location in your document. What we're now going to do is very quickly create some custom picture frames. And handily, today is the 15th. Which means, it being a Sunday, that Friday was the 13th. Why does this matter? Oh, in Affinity, it's a huge thing. It definitely matters. Because on Friday, when I was prepping, the cat tool was available. I am not joking. It's not April the 1st, it's the 15th of February. Right? There was a cat tool. There was the cat tool. Now, the cat tool makes an appearance on Friday the 13th and Halloween. It works exactly the same way as all the other shapes. You can check it out next month when we have another Friday the 13th. But you will see the cat tool at the bottom of the shapes tool only on those days. I do have in our image layout collection, which I'm making available later, I have given you a file with the cat in it. In fact, I've gone to town. There's 2 cats in it. Because the cat that used to be in version 1 of the Affinity apps is very different than the cat that's in version 2 and 3 of the Affinity apps. So, be aware that on certain days you have an extra tool. Right, but most of the time you don't. So if I show you what that tool looks like now, there's no cat tool. He's gone. But he was there on Friday. That's why I took a screenshot for you. Couldn't even make this up, you know. Right, so I am looking at a custom... where am I? We've done text wrapping, haven't we? So I'm going into custom shapes. Oh, there we are. Right. That was strange. Okay, right, I'm going to open this file up. Right, what I've done here is this is a file that's going to be available to you at the end. So you can play along with these to your heart's content. These are smart shapes. Smart shapes is the proper name for shapes made with all of the tools you have in here. Why are they smart? Now, this is what sets Affinity apart from many other applications where you just add a shape and it is a vector shape. What makes them smart is the edges of them. So what I will show you, we will add a page in here. Let's add it at the end, doesn't matter, that'll do. Right, I will show you that I'm just going to draw on a shape. We'll have it a little bit of a better colour than that, shall we? Right. What makes this a smart shape is when I click it, it shows me it's a shape over here. That is distinct from something in another application, which is curves. If I convert that to curves, it looks identical. It is not the same. This one has a different icon to this one. This now says polyline, not a rectangle. Can I scale it? What can I do with it? Yeah, it looks the same. You might not even notice the difference, but there is a huge difference. Because in here, you can do things with these shapes. This one, not great for showing that. But if I show you the rounded rectangle, which is rounded, and I copy that over there, and I convert that to a curve, you will see exactly what the issue is. Again, it looks similar. It's not the same. If in here, I click it, you can see I've got this red handle. And that red handle will enable me to customize that shape. It is a smart shape. This one, not smart. There's no way I can do that. Don't get the same handles. I do get these, which are edit nodes. But if what I wanted to do was change that, it gets messy. Look at it. It gets messy. I'll have to hold the shift key. And then I'll have to play around with this. And no, don't do that. There's a big difference between a smart shape and a curve. Only convert to a curve if you absolutely need to. And that's a very, very basic smart shape. They get way cleverer than that. All right, let's get rid of these and go and get another one. So we have an arrow tool as well, which is a double-headed arrow. That one got multiple red handles. This one makes the middle bigger. This one changes the arrow, and this one changes where the end of the arrow is, which means you could add one and then take that away so it is an arrow pointing to the right or the left. You've also got stars in here, like that. And you can change in here how sharp it is. You can take it out there, totally the other way. And you've got these to extend or reduce the inner little sharp bits that we have. What should we call those? Handles, arrows, whatever you want to call them. So there's a big difference. But the thing is, these are just shapes. They're not picture frames, are they? No. But these that are smart shapes can be turned into picture frames. So I've got that as smart shapes. They're not, they're picture frames, but we'll do that. So what I'll do is I will add one page after page 1, which was where I wanted the last one, and he shoved it at the bottom. Right, how do we do that? Well, I took the most basic shape and I'm making a custom shape. So that is the most basic shape. But from the context sensitive toolbar at the top, you have a range of presets. You could make that a rectangle, which it already is, but that gives it circles. So if you've made a rectangle and thought, it should be a rounded rectangle, not too late to change it. You could also, in here, change it to that. When you do that, you've got one handle. You can bring this in, you can take it out. Because it's a smart shape, it's editable. I'll make a copy of that. And I'll make another copy of that. Right, so this one, let's go back to those options and change it. So now it's like cut off on the corners, but double click and you can change what that looks like. And let's get the last one going to there and we'll choose that and it just cuts one corner off. Now you may say, well, they're great, but what if I wanted something that looked like that, but it had two corners like that? Right, then how we would do that, I will duplicate that one and I will make it, no, I'll tell you what, take it out like that. All right, so it's basically a rectangle. Right, at this point, I'd like the left corner and the right corner, so top left, bottom right, to be like this, but not quite as much. So with this selected, I'm switching to the vector mode just so I can get to the corner tool easily. Now, I can grab the corner and move that in. So that now looks like that, but in the top left. And I could then grab the bottom and, well, that's not working, is it? It's twanged back to the node tool, and I need the corner tool. And I could bring that in, but they're not the same. And I wanted it equal. Oh dear. Right, that's not tricky. What we would need to do is, let's get another one of these. Right, you use the corner tool, and you can see as soon as you activate the corner tool, look at the difference. We've gone from circles to the corner tool, which is now square. And I can click, and that changes that to blue. And when I use the corner tool now, that is the corner that will be impacted. But if I hold the Shift key down and click the bottom one as well, I've selected two of them. If I now do anything to one of them, it will do it to both of them equally. So that now matches. This one did by hand, didn't match. This one, it matches. So this is how you can take the shapes that are available within Affinity and make the custom shapes from them. These are fairly basic custom shapes, but at this stage, do you know what they're not? They're not picture frames. Not at this stage, they're not. They're just shapes. But to make them picture frames is really straightforward. You right-click on it and you've seen that I converted it to curves. You also have the option here to convert it to a picture frame. And as soon as you do that, you get the cross in it to indicate that it is actually a picture frame. Now, if you're moving to Affinity from another application, I would suggest that you do it that way, where you actually convert it to a picture frame. Because in other applications that don't have the concept of a picture frame, I'm just going to go back here so we've got some stock images. You don't have the ability to grab your cat and drag and drop it into a shape like that. You do have a similar thing, but it's not quite the same. So that is the benefit of a picture frame. If I drag the cat on, but I want the cat inside this shape, so my cat's over there, let's get the cat almost in the right place. Say like there, I want the cat there. What you can do, and what people say to me is, well, can't I just do that? Which is, this is the image of the cat. This is the frame I want it inside. So if I drag the image over the top of there, aren't they the same? Well, they look the same. They're not the same. Right, this one is a picture frame. This one is not a picture frame. If I scale this, I'm scaling the cat as well, because the cat's inside it. You know, with this one, I'm usually not, right? But this one gives you no ability to change the size of the cat, rotate the cat, or move the cat. If you want to move the cat, you would have to open this up, select the cat, and move him independently. So although they look the same, they're not the same. Is it that one is better than the other? One is more correct than the other? One just has more options than the other. If you are happy working like this and you've worked like this for years and years, carry on working like that. But if you change to this way of working, you'll make life easier for yourself in the future. So that is how you take fairly basic shapes from Affinity and turn them into picture frames. Exactly what I did with these. You don't even have to do it one at a time. You can select them all, right-click and convert to picture frames, and you get 3 distinct picture frames. Okay, that is fairly basic picture frames. Right. You can also create advanced custom picture frames. So the difference between the two is they were all shapes that are available inside Affinity. But what if the shape you want isn't available inside Affinity? And then we'll take it a little bit further than that. Right, so what I've got in here, Oh, I didn't show the cat tool, did I? There's the cat tool. That was the cat in version 1. This is the cat in version 2 and 3. So you'll get the cat and you'll be able to play with it. But like I said, it really is just a shape like any other shape. In fact, so much so, there's nothing to stop you turning him into a picture frame either. You could convert that into a picture frame. Right, and there he is with a cross in it. So you can see he really is a picture frame. Right, let's get on to advanced custom picture frames in here. Now this one might look the same. Indeed, it is at this stage. But what I will do, I will add a page after, one page after page 1. Right, which put it in there. All I did to create that was grab a rounded rectangle and I put it on there and I rounded that as much as possible. And I think I set this to something like 36 by 100. But it wasn't linked, so it really was 36. Like that, something like that. And at that point, all I did with it was place it and then duplicate it and move them up and down a bit. Right, if what I wanted was that, and you can take as much time as you like to line all this lot up properly in terms of the distribution, so distribute them evenly. Right, at this point, they're smart shapes. They are not picture frames, but very simple to make them picture frames, as we've seen. Select all of them, right-click, and turn them into picture frames. And now they're picture frames. Right, again, that's using fairly basic shapes. I think in here, that's not the file. Let me have a look. Was it that one? No, oh no, it's in this one here. Here it is. Right, let's open that up. Right, all I've done with this one is take 2 shapes and make a new shape from them. Same with this. That was all I did. And this is what we end up with. Right, so how do we do that? So I will show you in here. All I did was create 2 rectangles. So I'll do that next to it. Let's move these out of the way a bit. Right, they are smart shapes, but I'm not doing anything clever with them. So I will put that in for the background. I think I even just copied and pasted it or duplicated it. Turned it round, made that one narrower, and I did change the colour just so we could see it. So somewhere like that. And now we can see it. So it's just 2 shapes. But then what I did was select the 2 of them. It's easier in the vector mode because it's in your face, which is the Boolean operations. And all I did with that was add them together and I made one new compound shape. I did exactly the same with this. So again, it was another rounded rectangle. Like that. I'll make it a bit smaller. And an arrow, which we've already seen. So let's go get the arrow. Obviously, I did some magic with the arrow, which was I got rid of one end of it and I rotated it like that. I will make it black so we can see it sitting over the top. And I had it lined up with the bottom and we'll take it down a bit like that. And again, all I need to do with this is to select both shapes, right click. No, I don't. I go up here and I've got my Boolean operations and I add them together. And I now have 2 new frames. Or actually, shapes. These are vector shapes. But I can right click on them and convert them to be picture frames, both of them. So convert those to picture frames. And in my stock images, shall we stick with the cat theme? Let's add him to that one. And you can see it actually fills it. And that's where this ability to move it becomes really handy. Because you can do it visually. You can make sure there that we can see his eyes in the shape that we've got. And likewise with this. Shall we put an Easter egg in that one? Right, what we got Easter egg wise? Oh, a chick, I think. Let's put the chick in it. Right, we can't see the chick too well, but you get the idea. It's principle, and we can see the chick. I could possibly make the chick bigger and get his head in the middle, like that. There we go. So, they are custom frames entirely. You're making a completely new shape from a range of existing shapes that are in Affinity, and then making them picture frames. Right, the other option that we had was the advanced picture frames, which is in here. Right, so you've seen that, yeah, these are separate frames. So all I would need to do with those is let's put our images in here. Some of these are just plain scary, but we'll do it. There they are. So let's add a bunny rabbit in. And literally you're putting in a separate image in each one of these frames. And you can move them into place. So what else have we got in here? We'll have that one. And we'll have that one. Right, and that I would probably make bigger and move it so we can see the eggs like that. Good as far as it goes, but that is what they look like when you've made them individual picture frames, but you can go one better than that. So what I'm going to do here is add another page. We will insert that after page 2, so there we go. Now I'm going to take these, which are the smart shapes. These are the original smart shapes, and put them on this page. Now, this time I want to be able to put one image in all of them at the same time. These were 5 separate images into 5 separate frames. But this one, I want to be completely different. So I need to do 2 things instead of 1. I select them, but do not at that stage make them frames because there'll be 1 frame. If we use that vector trick of merging them with the Boolean operations, which is add, that is now 1 shape. If you look in your panel here, it's 1 shape. We will go back here and have a look at these. Both the originals were multiple shapes and the frames were multiple picture frames. This is not. It is 1 shape. So when we right click and choose convert to picture frame, it's 1 image that we will drag and drop into it. So we had those brightly coloured eggs, didn't we? Let's take that one and drag and drop. It's having a think about it, but it's 1 image in that frame. There's the image, the stock image, we've downloaded it. It has loaded it into here. And that is now working exactly the same as the others. So you can make it bigger, you can move it around, but you've got a frame where it's 1 shape, but you can add text behind it. Now, the reason that that's important is I've seen people try to do this by taking, let's do it. Right, we'll get an extra page. Quick aside, I hope. We will take this, which is the shapes, and they think the best way to achieve it is by grabbing hold of these and adding a background to them. So you put something behind them, like that. You can't see anything because it's different colours, so we'll make that black so you can see it. And then punching a hole in it, right? So we would take these, and what you would want is to punch those through this one as a hole. We can do that because we've got them together, so we'll Boolean add those. Then we'll select that, and what you want is to cut out from the black background these shapes. So do a minus. And that's what you've got. And then what they do is make that white and put an image behind it. So let's go and get an image and just put it behind it. What we got? We got bunnies. Let's add bunnies, right? And we'll put the bunnies behind it. So that's on the top. It looks similar, doesn't it? You would have to shrink that so you couldn't see the edges of it. It looks similar. What's the difference? Why is that wrong? Why is that going to give you grief? And this one would not give you grief because they look the same. Here's when it's going to give you grief. Right, let's go and get a text frame and say that we want to put some text in there, which indeed we do. So I'm copying it from my clipboard. We've got some text in it now. Right, we will in there copy and paste so we've got some more text. Right, you can see that that is sitting over the top of it. But we would be able with this, wouldn't we, to put a text wrap on it like that. And you can see as I move this text up, the text is within the square of the image. Right. If, however, I take that text frame and I go in here No, you're not going to get that, right? Because it's a square image. So if I move this down like that, and you think, well, that's all right, I can put it behind it, because you could have done that with this. No, you can't, because this image is square. So if I add a text wrap to that, it pushes the text right out of the way at the bottom. That's why this way of doing it is far better. I'm not saying you would want to put text on it, but on the basis that you might. Right. Another thing that I did, which I'm not going to... this is in the file that I will give you. So all I did with this was take the shapes and turn them on their side. Literally. So you saw me draw these. All I did was grab hold of them and rotate them and then make some new shapes from them. So how I did that was Command and C, Command and V, copy and paste, stretch it up there and shrink it there, like that. And that was how I created that. Same principle was exactly what I did here. You do have a heart shape in here, perfect for Valentine's Day. So all you've got is the heart tool. You just draw out various heart shapes. These are smart shapes. I converted them into individual picture frames and then took another copy and converted them into a single frame, which means, and I did have the perfect image for this. I'm not sure if it was in here, but it was a samoyed in a poppy field. Were you in here? No, you wouldn't be, would you? But it's all right. That one will do. So drag and drop the single image in and it fills all of the shapes like that. Principle is identical. The shapes don't matter. And that file is one of the files that is in the collectioner that I'll give you at the end. And so is this file with starting points so you can work through and do these on your own. So you would be able to use the shapes that I have given you to practice creating other shapes. Okay, right, where am I up to now? Right, multi-page spreads is, I think, the next thing. So this is a question I get a lot. The problem seems to be that you have expectations and you don't expect it to work. Those seem to be the number one problems. This is not difficult at all, as long as the file is set up correctly. Right, so let's have a look at that. I think, do I have a before? Let me have a look. Multipage spread. I do. So this is a file that, again, is in the collection that I'm going to give you. And this is the first type of spread. This one is the second. Now, when I said set up correctly, if this is going off to print, it's going to need a bleed. So I have that sort of like this. Well, there's a photo book, an A4 photo book. That'll do. Right. So a couple of things in here. It's going off to print and I know it is. So it's CMYK. I've chosen the colour profile that my print service demands. I'm embedding images. This is all the setup. I've got 40 pages in it. I've got margins of 6 and a bleed of 3. And why I haven't got an inner bleed, I don't know. So let's put 3 in there. Right. So it's all sorted and it's facing pages. Right. That is what I mean by set up correctly. If you find that you have set up a file as RGB with no bleed and now you need to print it, you are going to need to add the bleed. Even if you are thinking, I can't afford to send this to print, it's never going to print. You know, you could make something and somebody says, can I have a printed copy of that? And I'm prepared to pay. And then you've got a whole lot of work to do adding the bleed in. So add the bleed in at the beginning. It doesn't make a jot of difference. If the bleed is there, you can choose to ignore it. You can choose to work to the bleed. But at the point you create your digital output, it will ignore the bleed. So there's no harm in adding a bleed at all. So that is what I would suggest for creating it, which will give you a spread that looks something like that. The lavender outline is the bleed. The blue on well, then we've got, let me zoom in so you can see it. The lavender is the bleed. This is the page edge, and this is the margin. Now, the next question is, but if I'm sending it for print, then I need a bleed in the middle. It will take care of it. It will take care of it for you, which we've demonstrated in other sessions. So you do not have to worry about that. If what you want in here is a multi-page spread or an image that goes over more than one page, all you need to do is that, and you're done. That is it. It will take care of the rest of it. You can align it to the middle if you want. You may have text running around the outside. You can do anything you like, but it is basically an image that is spread across more than one page. It could be hanging off it like that. It could be in the middle. It could be anywhere. Doesn't matter. It will take care of the output for that. So the next type of multi-page spread that people want is a full page spread. Oh, it's so easy. It's frightening. You go and get the picture frame and you draw from the outside edge of the bleed to the outside edge of the bleed. And then you go get an image. So, he looks grumpy, doesn't he? He looks like he's been watching the football. Oh, how about this little fella here? Let's pop him in. Right, that image now goes from bleed to bleed. And again, that's it. You don't need to do anything else with that. That is a multi-page spread. It's as simple as that. There is no matching it up in the middle and having it in two. No, don't do that. Make sure that the document is set up with spreads. Just add a picture frame and then add your picture to it. That's it. So that couldn't be easier. Now, when I say it'll sort itself out, at the point that you come to output that, you will see in here that I'm pick PDF. I want the current spread, which is the one with the dog on it. Oh, you're not giving me the current spread, are you? Right, let's make sure you are the current spread. Come on, behave yourself. Behave yourself. Right, that looks better. We can see him. Now, at the moment, this is PDF for print. You've got PDF for digital, but you've also got outputs. I would suggest, if you are sending this for print, like I do, that you create a custom preset for your printer. Now, notice what's happened there. It's now switched, so it's got the printer's marks on it, but it's still going to send that out as a single spread, not a page, because it says current spread. Now, if I were to say all pages, it should have a rethink about that, which is why it's estimating the file size here. And it goes away and it has a think about it. Now, it's not showing us the right page. It's showing us page 1, which is no help at all. So what I will do is I will actually export that into the root of that folder. And we will say that that is for print. So it's going to Printed Easy. And I will export that. And then I will show you what it will actually do. So where's my file? There we go. There it is. So that's page 1. But what we're interested in is here. Now, when I say it will sort it out, these lines at the top, so there's a circle and then there's 2 lines, which I think we can see if, oh no, you're doing all kinds of weirdness. Right, there we go. That line there and that line there are showing you the bleed. It has put part of the dog in the bleed. We look at this page, it's done exactly the same that way. So the whole of the dog's eye is there, but on this one, we have half of the dog's eye. Because it has taken care of the bleed, you do not have to worry about it. You do not have to line anything up or anything else either. Which sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? But this works. I've sent stuff off to print. It's come back absolutely fine. So this actually works. It's not as difficult as you would imagine. Okay, so that is how you handle the multi-page spreads. The next one is a little bit trickier, which is, we are heading off into wraparound cover images. Now, there are 2 ways to do this, and this is where you're producing like a photo book. I have included both methods in the advanced photo book session, but I got lots of questions about it. You seem to find this quite difficult. I'm going to take you through the process here for the new and preferred method, which uses an extended spread. But there's clearly some potential confusion about this and how the bleeds work. So what I'll do with this is do the whole thing. Right, so let's go into there. So I'm going to do in here, let me get wraparound cover. I will show you what this looks like complete. So what I'll do first is lose all of these. We've got all sorts going on here, and it won't be happy about it, will it? So we will close that and close these. Right, so I'm only going to be working here with one file. That one is the pinning, so let's get rid of that. Right, what it's going to look like when it's complete is that, and I will take you through this. Now, obviously, that could take us quite a while, and we haven't got quite a while. So I will be going through it at quite a pace, just to show you how that was actually created. The most important part of this is the actual layout that we're working to, not the content. But sometimes if I do a demonstration and I just say, there you go, that's the outer flap, the inner flap, you cannot visualize it. So I'm doing this one so you can visualize it. That is what we're aiming for, but we're going to start from scratch. So this was made with a large landscape photo book in mind, which was this template here. All the things we've talked about today, I've just picked this particular size. Large landscape with these sizes is offered by a lot of print services online. It's CMYK because it's going to go for print. I'm preferring embedding, but it'll probably do its own thing. And I've got in here 40 pages. I don't need anything like 40 pages. Literally 8 would do. But I don't even need 8. I'll start with 1, right? It's got margins on it. We have an inner margin that's bigger. I think this was working on something else. But it doesn't matter. None of that matters. I am putting a bleed on it, but again, none of it matters. I'm just creating one single page. That's all I need to think about. I will in here make all of these 6.4. Only because the page is square and I want you to see it square, and create a document. So I have a document, it's got one page on it. Now you can see it's in a spread and it starts on the right. I don't really even need that because this is a file that's going to contain my cover. So in my document here, where we've got, it's somewhere over here. Where are you? Come on. Facing pages. Don't even need facing pages. So I've got one single page. Now, you might think, well, just a minute, that's one single page. No, it's not. That is not one single page. It's 5. It's 5 pages in a multi-page spread. How on earth do you do that? That's a lot easier than you would think. Right, so I go in here and I need another 4 pages. And I want them inserted after page 1. That's fine. Do I want to flow them? No. Because if I flow them, we get 5 pages. But each one is self-contained. That is not what we want. So, back into adding some pages, 4 of them. We want them after page 1, but we want to extend the spread. And that is what will put these pages side by side. So we do that, and I am Command and O so we can see this. And you can see we've got pages 1 to 5 in one spread. Then we need to size them. Right, this one is going to be the back cover. So that there, back cover, that is the front cover. This is the front flap. That is the back flap. And that needs to be the spine. And that seems to confuse people a lot. Let's go and do that. All right. I need to edit the spread properties. It will show me all 5. If I make changes at this stage, it will happen to all of them. But I can click to select one, and I can then go in and change the page width, and that only needs to be just less than 1 inch. The spine is less than 1 inch. That is then the spine in the middle. I then need this page and this page to be 10 centimetres or 100 millimetres. So go back into the spread properties. This time I don't want to do it for the back page and then have to come back in and do it for the front page. I can hold the Command key down, I'm presuming Control on Windows, and select 2 of them and change the width of that to 100 millimetres, which is 10 centimetres, and OK. That should now be looking much more like a wraparound cover. So this is the wraparound cover that you would put on like a dust jacket. So definitely a photo book. Right, That is it for the layout. If what you then want is a photo that goes all the way across there, well, we've already done that, haven't we? All we need is a picture frame going from bleed to bleed. That's it. You're done. Now, I do have the images that I used, and one of them was this sunset. So I'm dragging and dropping the sunset in, and it puts it all the way across there. Now, you can, at this stage, it's in a picture frame. I'd like to see more of the sky than the sea. So I'm going to bring it down, and maybe bring it down all the way. Where are you? Are you seeing that? I think you are. I think you're going into the bleed, maybe not. Naughty, naughty. Let me make sure that that is correct. That's better, isn't it? I think it could be the image. I think I might have moved it. But I'll scale it up a smidgen. Won't matter if it's a smidgen. Right, there's my image. Is that right at the bottom? Right, there we go. I'm confident that is now correct. Right, I will save it at that point. This is Scotland. Right. Now, the next stuff I'm going to do, not really important for today's demo. It's a demo, but I want you to see this come to life. So what I'm going to do, you've seen me add the image in. Right, there are problems with this image that you may not notice at this point, but you will notice at some point. Oh, probably when you print it in, somebody points it out, and then you'll be really grumpy. Right, there are a couple of problems with it, which you will get with images. So make sure you check your image. What is this? That is sensor dust, believe it or not. And there's more sensor dust over here somewhere. I spotted. There's more sensor dust. Right. At the very beginning, I said I'm concentrating on the layout aspects of images today, not image editing. But obviously, if you've got a problem with an image, you need to edit it, aren't you? It's actually really straightforward. Right, we are still in, at this stage, the layout view. But I can add a pixel layer in here. I would switch to pixel view so I can get the tools that I need. I've got the stamp tool and I've got the inpainting tool. So the inpainting tool up here, I'm painting onto the pixel layer. Could I do this straight onto the image? Yes, but it's destructive. And if I don't like what I've done later, it'd be difficult to change. So I'm just going to click on the dust and it is going to magically disappear in a completely non-destructive way while I go and find more dust and do that. Now there was on this image quite a bit of sensor dust. Clearly the photographer needs his camera cleaning. I'm not seeing any more there though, so it was possibly more in the sky. But that is as easy, it's that simple to edit that. Now if I turn off the image, you will see two dots. Those dots are the repairs. And the repairs and the image are both inside the picture frame. That's important. If I move the picture frame, obviously I want the repairs to go with it. And good practice, if you are doing that, future you will thank past you if you call that either repairs or repair. Right, we're good to go then. We only need the content. And in here, I've got the content. I have the blurb for the front flap, the back flap, the blurb on the back page. I have the spine title, the book title. I've got a QR code. I've got the front cover image and the back cover image. And I'm just going to copy it. Notice what we have here. Right, when I paste that in here, it should just work. And it's not bad. It's off slightly. Why it's off slightly is I've not got the image low enough, which maybe would explain why. What on earth is this doing here? That's pasted in totally the wrong place, believe it or not. It's put it inside the picture frame, which we don't want. We want it sat over the top. That's better. Right, we turn this off. We can see. Let me just turn on the... Let's turn it on so I can see it. Right, this needs to be lower. So basically, the image in here, the repairs and that need to be lower. So I should, I've got the right tool, and be able to move that. So I'm moving it down so it is in the right place, like that. So that's what it looked like. Right, when I said keep your eye on that, there's a huge difference between this one and this one. Who can spot what that difference is? And this is where the 30-second delay becomes absolutely annoying. Right, I'm sure some of you can see what the issue is. There is something missing in this one, which is the one I'm creating for you today. I'm going to go back to layout view. I need to be in layout view at this. Oh no, I'll be heading back. Right, has anybody got it, Mike? What the difference is? Nobody's got anything in the chat at this stage. Right, I will explain to you. Right, this one, beautiful Scottish cottage. And we can see it. This one, where's the cottage? It's behind the text. Oh no. But we know that that image is placed correctly. So what magic did I do with the other one to make it work? Well, when I did it, the cottage was kind of sticking out and I could see it tantalizingly behind the text. But right now it's behind the text. That's not good. It's in the wrong place. So here's what I did. I grabbed absolutely everything and I turned it off so I could concentrate on this cottage that's on the wrong page. It's on the flap and it needs to be here. I need to move the cottage. Can I move the cottage? Yeah, really simple. So in our repairs that I had here, I can either do it on that layer or I can create another one. And I can call that cottage. Right, cottage work. Let's move it. Oh, this is the easiest way you'll ever move house. What I'm going to do in here is not repair it, because if I repair it, it will just remove the cottage. I need the clone stamp tool, and I need to hover over it, just at the edge there, hold the Option key down, which changes the mouse pointer, and click once. That is setting your source point. Right, where do you want the cottage? And you can see the cottage ghosted behind it. I want the cottage here. So click, and I just keep clicking, and as I do, it paints the cottage in for me. And that looks pretty perfect. But now, obviously, I've got 2 cottages now, and I don't really want 2 cottages, I only want 1. Right, so I swap tools to the in-painting repair brush, and I draw over it. And what I'm saying to it is, get rid of that. I've moved the cottage, we don't need that one. And it will have a think about it, and it will remove it. And I might need to do that smidgen more just to get the colour lined up. But given I'm about to put a load of text on the top of it, don't think it matters. So that is how I move the cottage. Then I turn all my content on, and I have a perfect wraparound cover, which I would probably send as a PDF to my print company. And they would then use that to print the cover, which would wrap around a hardback book. And that is how you create a wraparound cover. Now, in the collection of files I am giving you, this is what that looks like. No, it doesn't. I'm lying. This is what that looks like. Go on. You do want to open. You know you do. Right, looks like that. I've given you the text, I've given you the backgrounds, I've given you placeholders for the image. Unfortunately, these are stock images, and I can't give you the images, but in the download, you will find the links to the very same images. So you can use this and practice. Right, probably the last thing I want to do on there. Oh, this is the other one. So this is another wraparound cover, but the 2 are totally different. In what way are the 2 totally different? Well, this one is the one that I've just created with you, and that is a 5-page spread. This one is not pages, it is artboards. So it's the type that you would have made many moons ago in Affinity Designer, which uses artboards. So if you are more comfortable with artboards, there is an artboard version there as well. It all has the bleed on, it's all identical, it's just a different way of doing the thing. Right, so let me move from there to this one. Right, image captions. So this is another much requested demonstration. Now, if you're looking for a fully automated way of doing this, you're out of luck. But once you know the tricks, it's actually really simple. Now, when I say fully automated, many people are familiar with Word, and Word handles captions brilliantly. Whether they are image captions or illustrations or anything else, fragments of poems, you name it, Word can do it. Word has a different way of implementing it. Now, I remember switching from WordPerfect to Word way back in the day, in the 90s, and I was frustrated with the way that Word worked until I understood what it was doing and why it was doing it. And Affinity is the same. You may initially feel really frustrated that there isn't just a way of doing this, but there are things that you can do which will make doing this just as flexible as the Word option once you know the tricks. So let's head in and look at that. So I am going to close all of these. Was that the one I did today? I've got no idea. Right. And there we go. So we are back to nothing. And I am back to showing you captions. Now, I do have a proper file for this, and I have a file that I've included in the collection. So I have a book. It is completely laid out. It's completely finished. I didn't write it, thankfully. Right. It is the Time Machine by H.G. Wells. In here, I have put at the start of every chapter an image. And that image has a caption underneath it. And it has text describing the image. It has a label that says image, and it numbers it. And if I go through to chapter 2, you can see that is image 2, caption that I've typed, and it says image 2. And all the way through it, every time there's a change of chapter, there is an image. That's the kind of thing we're talking about creating. I've included this in here so you can see it as a finished thing. Right. Now, those captions, this is the table of contents of the book. Notice that that is saying it's got the entries for the chapters, and it's also got a table of images and a table of illustrations. Interesting. Right, the table of images is there. So, all of those captions that were underneath the images, why didn't I fix that? You know, I did fix that. I must have, oh, crying out loud. Love a demo when there's a mistake in it. Right, it's you. No, I did fix it. I knew I'd fixed it. Do you know what I did? I didn't update the table of contents. Right, this is a table of contents. This is the table of images. These can be updated, so let me update it. Why didn't you warn me? Right, there we go. Each one of those is the caption underneath the image. Now, to make this work, when people are complaining to me and saying it doesn't work or it's complicated, I don't know how to make it work, that's because there's a lot of different features of Affinity involved in making this work. So the first thing you're going to need to understand is image frames, your picture frames. The second thing is text frames. The next thing is overrides, then text styles, and then how to insert a table of contents and format it. So there's a lot of different moving parts, and when people try and learn Affinity, you tend to be learning each one in isolation. But once you get to a certain level, you're going to need to pull all of those different features together, and then making something like that is easy. So that is what that looks like. This is what you need to do to make it work. So I have here a table of illustrations, but I do not have any illustrations in the file. Luckily, I thought I had downloaded some, and they're not there. So what I'm going to do, images. Oh, I do. They're there. Right. There. I've got some images like this, which are steampunk images, which seem to me to be perfect for the Time Machine. So I have some images that I'm going to use. You can see them here. I'm calling these, like that one's got a transparent background, I hope, illustrations. Right. So I've got some frames and some stuff like that, like these. Right. So they're not going to be images. They're going to be illustrations. I'm calling them illustrations. Right. Here's how I set about doing that. First of all, at the end of the chapter, I need to put in the illustration. I need somewhere for that to be a placeholder. So I am going to get an image there, which is my picture frame, and I'm going to put that in place. So this is going to be at the end of a chapter. So it really is going to need all of these features pulling together, all of the features we've looked at, and luckily it's the last demo, right, to make this work. Right, that is our placeholder. Right, I need to add the image to it. And at this stage, actually, you wouldn't even need to add the image to it, but I will. And there it is. Now, at this point, I don't have a caption for it. Yeah, this is the bit you don't like. This is the bit that I have to say to you, this is manual. And you're like, what? Yeah, it's manual. But bear with me. I will automate it as far as we can automate it. That there is our image. I now need a text frame like that is going to sit underneath it like that. And I can make it full width. And that is where my caption is going to go. So I would type caption in there. Did I type caption in there? I did. And now I've got the eyeball saying, whoa, overset text. Okay, how did that happen? Oh, good grief. We definitely don't want a caption that big. Why is it doing that? Because the last thing I did in this file was add the table of illustrations, which is a H1. So it's formatted it the same way. I don't want that. Don't want it to look like that. I already have a beautiful caption style in here that I have created, which is, where's it disappeared to? Good grief, you've disappeared. That's interesting. I don't think I deleted it. There's my footer style. I can't have deleted it. There we go. Caption images. Oh, you're hiding under base 1. Oh dear. Never mind. There it is. Caption images. So that's what I need. In fact, I've got 4 in there now, haven't I? Oh, this is crazy. But never mind. I know why that's happened, and it's just something we have to live with and fix later. Right, but never mind. It's there. Right. In terms of what that looks like, I need to find where I put that image now. Where on earth are you? Where's that placeholder image? There it is, the butterfly. Right, I need this to be beautiful. Right, so it needs to be different than that. It needs to be a lot smaller. So I would take that down to probably 10 to 12. We'll make it 12 so we can see it. Right, I would make it italic at that point, and I would change it so it's grey. It's still not right in the frame though, is it? It's centred in the frame. And that's to do with what's set up at the top. It's centred vertically. Now, I could set that to top alignment, but then it's a little bit too close to the image. So actually, I do want that in the middle. I just need this to be a reasonable height, like that. I also need to use my text frame properties to indent that, or I could indent it with the text. It just depends which way I want to do it. So in my paragraph here, I would like to indent that by 2 millimeters, which puts it in the right place. We're getting somewhere now. That is what I want the text to look like. So in my text styles, I need to create a text style for it. So I will add a text style, and I'll base it on base, but it could be doing its own thing. Who knows? Right? And I don't want it called style. I want this to be caption illustration. Now, could I use the caption style for images? I could. But then I'd have a problem making my table of illustrations. So by creating a dedicated text style, I'm going to be able to isolate this caption from the other captions. And I'll click OK on that. Right, so caption almost done. We are almost done. But the other one had numbers on it, and it said, what did it say? Image and a number. Right, you can do that in the style. So inside the style I've just created, inside the bullets and numbering, you can go into here and you can edit what the bullets and numbering look like. So at the moment, there's no list, but I would like these numbered. But I don't want them numbered like that. I don't just want a number at the beginning, followed by a full stop, followed by a tab. And that is what this text section here is giving you. So I'm talking about that bit there. You are defining what that looks like. Well, I don't want the tab for a start. If I delete it, you can see the preview straight away. It twangs back. I also don't want a full stop. I would much prefer colon, so I can do that. And then I'd like a space after it, so it's lined up nicely. And of course, this is an illustration. So moving to the other side of the number, I'm going to type illustration and put a space. And that is perfect. But at this stage, if you think what's going to go on, we're going to have multiple illustrations and they're going to be on separate pages. So by using this bullets and numbering style, it's going to number every single one of them number 1. Because if you look what you've told it down here, start the numbering at 1. Okay, so we need to make a magic list, not just a standard bulleted numbered list. We need to give it a name. So this one would be Captions Illustrations. Have I spelt that right? Illustrations. I think I have. Right, so I've given it a name. I also need to tell it that it's a global list. I need to make sure I've got a tick in global list. I then need to say, restart the numbering only when I tell you to, which I'm not going to. So manual only. And that is then the style we need. Right. The other thing we need to do at that point, we've got the illustration, we've got the caption. Problem? If I move the illustration, the caption's not necessarily going to go with it. Anything could happen. The caption and the illustration need to be grouped together. So I've selected both. Select one, hold the Shift key down, select the other one. In the layers, you will see them selected. Command and G or Control and G will group them. Now, when it moves, it will move with the image. Obviously, at this point, you also then need to bring in pinning, because if I change the text style and I make the text bigger, that is not going to move unless I pin it. Can you pin a group rather than just an image? Yes, you can. So we need the pinning panel. So we'll open that, and with it selected, we will pin it. And it's pinned it bang onto the right place. So there's lots of things you need to do. And that's the point. It's complicated. I get that. You want it easier. I know, but there's nothing we can do about that. Right, we have an illustration at that point. Right, going down to the next chapter. In fact, I'll go down to number 3. No, I'm going down to... I don't want things to move too badly. So I'm going to try and get one that's got a blank page at the end. Right. And you would pretty much do the same thing. Yes, but who wants to do that? So, if we go back to what we had, which is our illustration here, we need to start thinking smart at this point, because I know how long this took me to put in the images, all 13 of them. Right, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to move down to that page where I wanted it, which is the one with some space. You've got some space, haven't you? You'll do. Right, I want to put it here. Right, now, as I do that, I've got a problem. This is saying illustration 1. And it shouldn't, should it? It should be saying illustration 2. I have had major issues trying to get this to update properly. So if I just change the style, sometimes it jumps to it. Sometimes it doesn't. So I would need to make sure here that this is formatted correctly. Right, that is definitely number 1. It does work because you've seen it work, but it works when it feels like it. Right, it's one of those, it worked perfectly in rehearsals. Right, because I've reapplied it, it's working now. Excellent, that'll do. Now, you don't really want to copy and paste and then go in and have to change the image and then make the size and different and all of that. You don't really want to do all of that. So, I'm going to delete that one. What should you do instead? Well, how about you take this? We can add the image back later. But what we do with it, what if we took the image out of it? Don't want to delete the lot. Don't disappear. There's the group. There's the image. There's the image inside it. So let's just delete that. And I actually would probably want that a little bit smaller, like that. Right, this object that we have here, all of it is in there. Now, shouldn't be, it should be up there, crying out loud. It's done all kinds of bizarre things here. Let me try. take that out of there. That's where I want it. So that is the master page. I want this on the top. Right, so it's floating on the top. At this point, what else do I need to do to this? Something that we've looked at today. And that is put a wrap on it. Now you can put a wrap on an image, and you put a wrap on a group. You certainly can. So we now have a group with a picture frame, with a text box, a text frame, with text, with style text in it, that's magic text, that is updating every instance of this. The last thing we need to do with it, and I would probably put something on there like that, the last thing we need to do with it to automate it is to add it as an asset. So your assets panel contains groups of assets. These are all the ones I have. I will start completely from scratch so you know what's going on. I'm going to create a new category. This one is going to be demo images. That gives you a holding area for your assets. Right, what I am going to do before I add anything to it, so this is your category, these are your subcategories. You can rename your subcategories to, we'll call it captions. Right, we can have multiple ones in there, but over here, this is the group. I am going to rename that. That is going to be caption, and in fact it should probably be image and caption for an illustration. So name it so you can understand what it is. And then, with it selected, add it to your assets. Add from selection. Right, now you're good to go. There's a lot of things you've done. You've pinned, you've styled, created a style, you've gone to town with it, right? But what you can now do is whip through it really quickly. So the butterfly I can add here. I can at that point, if I want to, make sure that that is bigger so the butterfly fits it better. But what is important is that I can go to other places in this file, like the end of this chapter, and put another one in by dragging and dropping from there. And look what's happened. The most important thing has happened. It knows that this is number 2. I am going to need to put something in there, so we'll put gears in it. And I'll go and get one of my images with gears. So that's an EPS. That's not going to do us any good at all, is it? That'll do. So I'll drag that and drop that in there. And then just go through it, doing all of that. Now, it doesn't even have to be at the end. So if I'm on this page and I just think I'd like an illustration in here, you can do that. Just drag and drop it in and then place it where you want. So if you want it in here with some text around the side, you can do that. And notice illustration number 3, but this one is inside the text. And then all you would need to do again, I wonder if that is transparent. I don't think it is because it's JPEG. So I don't think it is. Shall we do the heart one? You know, it being Valentine's weekend. There we go. And obviously I would scale that up and so forth. But I've now got 3 illustrations in it. I could have as many as I liked. In fact, if I just copied that one, it should also update. And when I go into here, no, it's caption 4. And indeed it is. So we've done everything we need to do for that. That is all that's involved. I appreciate you probably need a set of instructions for that. Right, we have at that point got the illustrations in, we've got the captions in, they're formatted. Brilliant. The last thing we need to do is to create a table of image captions, which for me this time is illustrations. So once you've got your captions, you're going to want to be able to showcase those captions in the same way that you would create a table of content. But you don't want to create a table of contents, you want it isolated so it's only the captions. This is how you do that. So back up to our document. These are our images. If this is updated, so go to the top and update it. We do not want that to add our illustrations, which it hasn't. So that's fine. On the next page, though, we want a table of illustrations. Right, now I need first of all to make sure that my text is formatted correctly. It is body text. I have a flashing cursor there, And at that point, I need to insert a table of contents, which we can do either from the table of contents panel or from the menu. So let's just hit table of contents. Now, at this point, what's it doing? What have we got? We've got content. That's fine. No, these are the chapters. So why has it put the chapters in? And there's no captions in there at all. And it's done that because by default, a table of contents uses heading styles. Here they are. Here are the heading styles. We don't want those. What do we want? We want the illustration captions. So if I put a tick in illustrations, that works. I just need to take out the ones that are headings. And there are our 4 illustrations. We have now an isolated table of contents, which is just the table of illustrations. And you can see that you can do that as many times as you like. It could be maps, it could be illustrations, it could be images, you could say photos. You could use any word you like and then create a table of them. So I've got 3 tables of contents in here. I've got the full table of contents, which is the chapters. I've got a table of images, which is 16 images. And I've got illustrations that I've just created today, and I've got 4 illustrations. And that is how that works. Okay. Right, we did a lot, didn't we? Yes, there was plenty to cover, and I was quite right. We covered all of that. Right, but what you're probably interested in is the bonus. Right, so it is what I'm calling Image Layout Collection for Affinity by Canva. Now, what is in it is 10 editable Affinity files that I have created for today's demonstration. So first of all, you've got version 1 and version 2 of the cat. I mean, that's obviously the most valuable, isn't it? We've only ever had one cat tool, but it does different things. You've also got that full wraparound that I did that was done with pages and spreads. You've got a different version of doing that, a completely different way of doing it with artboards. I've put in a sample file which shows you pinning and how to pin it, because you can't use filler text. So I've given you just plain text. I've also done one there which is wrapping, how you apply wrapping to it. So all of that lot, there's 10 files altogether, and you will find that. I'll show you what that actually looks like. So it is, I think I've got it there. I do. Right, so this is what it looks like. This is the zip file that you will download. What I will do before I do that is zipped copy, and I will show you what that looks like. So you will download it and double click it to open it. It will create a folder, and within there you've got the license agreement, you've got the resources. So the resources are the images I used for the sunset, including the cow. Who doesn't need a Scottish cow? There's also the download link for the Poppins font, which is the font that I use. And then you've got the actual files themselves. So that is text wrapping, that is pinning images. There's the cat, there's the custom frames, there's the advanced custom frames, that is the multi-page spread. You've got the starting point. The only thing that's missing there is the images. And as I say, that's because I can't include them. You've got the wraparound cover that is artboards. The wraparound cover, that's the wraparound cover. The artboard one, that is the image captions, which is a sample. And that is creating the table of images. All formatted, all with the styles and everything that you need. And you can get that at elainegiles.com/scp-products-image-layout-collection-4-affinity. That is the QR code for it. Hopefully that link will work, but I have been told that when Mike puts the link in, it truncates it, doesn't it? If you click it from the chat, it will work. You will get a message from YouTube asking you if you want to leave YouTube. Obviously you do. But it should work. But if you copy it and paste it, it won't work. So you would then need to type the full URL or use the QR code. Right, everything that I do you will find on YouTube at youtube.com/ElaineGiles, including our ever-growing Affinity with Elaine playlist, which is the QR code is there for that. Going all the way back to October when we started with everything you need to know about Affinity with Canva to get started. We've been going every day since, every week since then, Every day would be a bit much, wouldn't it? Every week since then, with lots of different things. Last week was fun and games. Enjoyed that one. I hope you have enjoyed today and found it useful. If you have, there is the like button. We like the like button. You can also subscribe, and that will give you first notification of any new sessions that I do. Trying to get my mouse out of the way there. Where have you disappeared to? Right, so you can subscribe to the channel as well. Now, comments are very, very important, but you can only do that after the live stream. I have checked the stats, and I can say that every week for the last 6 weeks, the number of comments has gone down. Can we reverse that trend, please? Can we make it go up? Can we have a competition for how many comments you can get on there? Because it's like YouTube currency. YouTube loves comments. It's very annoying that you can't add a comment until the live stream has stopped. So all the chat that goes on in the live stream, and there's lots of it, doesn't count when we've finished. It needs to be a comment. Right, now, it's not that difficult, is it? I provide you with a link to the recording in my newsletter with timings, and all you need to do is hit the link and put "can't wait for the next show." If you can't manage that, today's icon is a camera. So if you've made it this far, celebrate and let me know by adding the camera icon to your comment. That's today's. Right, what have we got next time? Another topic much requested. Apparently there's lots of confusion around it, which is master pages. The number 1 question is page numbers. The number 2 question is, how do I get different page numbers? So putting page numbers on, I manage that. I need different page numbers in different parts of my document. So we will be covering all of that. And that is next week. It's next Sunday at 3 o'clock. I have to check because sometimes it's Saturday, isn't it? Right. Thank you for being here live or watching on demand. The best place to find me on the socials is Blue Sky. But the best way to ask a question is via the contact form on my blog. Facebook, pretty much a total waste of time. I do post on Facebook occasionally, but, you know, it's as we say in the UK, once every Preston Guild. What that means is I think a Preston Guild's once every, is it 10 years or 20? There's quite a big distance between them, so I'm not on there a lot. Right, then there is my newsletter. So that is at elainegiles.com/VIP. That is where you will get the link to the replay and all of the timings and anything else that is going on. So do subscribe to that. Right, we are going to head into Q&A. I'm hoping we've got some questions.
We've got lots.
Excellent.
And you were going to do a demo.
I was, right. What was the demo I needed to do
Save
before
the
we get going?
package.
Save as package, that's right. Okay, so I've got this image. This file, rather. Not interested in assets or anything else to do with it. It's just this file as is. Right, at the moment, it's saved. And it's saved as an Affinity file. So this one is the time machine. Let me find it in here. So where are we? Up a level, up a level, up a level. And you are in folder number 9. Right, that is the file that I have been working with today. So we've got, oh, that should say basic. Crying out loud, if I had the ability to type. That's the file we're looking at, and it's 216 meg. It's big because there's a lot of images in it, but that's the file we're looking at. Now, the question that was asked was, what about saving it as a package? So you have an option to do a save as. That will save it with another name, not another format. You cannot save out as InDesign or anything else either, unless you export, and then you can export as PDF. Save as package is a different thing entirely. This explodes your document, so the fonts, these are the fonts I've used, will be exported. The images will be exported. You can see the status is embedded. If there's any linked text, that will be in here as well, and CSS files, of which there are none at the moment. So what it's going to do is separate out the file. So I click OK, and it opens this, and I go to, we'll put this in, we'll put it in number 9, because we're already there, aren't we? So we'll put it in number 9. It needs its own dedicated folder to go into. So I will put in here the time machine package. Right, so I create a new folder. Right, in there, I then just hit the option for package. What happens in my Finder is there's the folder I created. In there, we have an AF package file, which is the file that I would be able to open and edit. And you can see I have the fonts in there. So it's a great way to do a backup because it will back up the fonts you've used. Now, I usually come across this as a problem with PowerPoint. I use PowerPoint all day, every day. I think I make about 20,000 slides a year. Sometimes I want to use like a custom font. It might be something like a stamp font or a comic font. And when I save the file, everything's fine. If I then take that file to another machine and that font's not available, I've got to go and find it, or it won't look right. So what it's doing here, what Affinity is doing, is let you save a file and it will export those fonts, and then you can send that to somebody else, font license permitting, obviously, or you can back it up and you'll never have to go and find the font 5 years from now when you're looking for this file and you think, what font was that? And it's telling you that the fonts are missing. So I would create a package file if I was working with somebody else and sending it to them on the basis that they need to edit the file and they might not have the fonts. That's when I would do that. The other time I would do that is when a document is finished. So in my case, there's one that I make every year and it goes to print. Well, once it's gone to print, that's it. You've got any mistakes in it then, that's just tough. So that file is finished with. At that point, I export it as a package and then it becomes a reference file for next time. I already have my basic file, but I've got this package file as well. So if we close this file, we've got no file open at all. If we open this package file, it will tell you what's in it, if there's anything missing. It gives you a nice little summary. It lists it should list the images. It's not listing the images, but that's probably because they're embedded. And OK it, and it will open it up, and technically speaking, everything will be there. There they are, including the images. So that is a package file. Right, so we've done the demo. What have we got in the way of questions?
From Christian, when having two black and white colour plates and you rescale with that slider, the line becomes inconsistent. Is there a way to prevent that, or make both line width with colour plates? I mean colouring plates for colouring.
If it's giving problems in the frame, then size it a different way. So I demonstrated that when I opened up the picture frame and I actually edited the image that was in there. So I did that with the wraparound cover, and what I needed to do was move the image down. But if you remember, I'd moved the cottage and I'd done some repairs, and the two needed to move together. So instead of moving it using the handles, what I did was actually went into it and selected the two layers and made sure that they moved together. So that might be your best bet.
Okay, Roger says, can I create my own stock panel to collect images that I plan to use in, for example, Photobook, or is there another way to collect images that are easily accessible?
You could create assets. So the asset panel, which I did demonstrate with the frame and the caption, you could create an asset panel and drag your assets into there. You can, with the assets panel, drag in more than one at a time. The problem with using the assets panel is because we don't have a light view, it's a bit tricky to work with sometimes, that you can't see things very well. Also, it's in an assets panel, so it's not great in terms of searchability or whatever. What I do is keep my images in an application called Eagle. So let me just see if I got Eagle open. Here's Eagle. Okay. Right. Eagle is an asset management application very similar to Adobe Bridge. Please, let's not get into, and is it better than Adobe Bridge scrap? No. Use what you like. I just happen to use Eagle. Right. Adobe Bridge is free. Eagle is not free. But this is what Eagle looks like. So this is my demo library. I've got multiple libraries, so my libraries are up there. You can see I've got a library of mockups and MacBytes libraries, right? So it's a way of keeping your images separate. So if I show you the MacBytes library, you can see these are our chapter markers that we have. So I do keep these separate from all of my other images, and I have different libraries. So my demo library is the one that I've got today's images in. So this is the sky, and these were the cats and the dogs that I potentially would have used. I've got sausage rolls in there. So these are the working with images ones today. I've got images, Chinese images that I use for menu demos. I've got my world travel map images that I've used. We always pick Seattle, don't we? I've got Halloween images, got one in there. I've got images of Samoyeds in there. So this is how I organise it. Now, the benefit of this is, by keeping it separate from Affinity, I can drag and drop these into other applications, PowerPoint, whatever. It makes them independent. I would say I prefer Eagle over Bridge for the work that I do. But depending on the work that I was doing, I would use Bridge. Each one has... Eagle is really good at organising images. It's brilliant. However, if what I wanted to create was a negative sheet, then I would use Bridge. So it just depends. Bridge is free, Eagle is not. There is a new version coming out. One of the benefits of Eagle is when you buy it for life. Even if there is a huge update from version 4 to 5, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, it's free. So you pay once and that's it. And it's about $40, something like that. So that's what I do with it. Your other options are, I do believe, is AC/DC still available on Windows? And Earth and View was another one on Windows. But what people have asked Affinity for, now this was before Canva got involved, so I don't know if that changed, but
Earth and View is, yeah.
Earth and View is still available. That's excellent, because that's another one that's free. That's just for Windows, though. Eagle's cross-platform. People have requested from Affinity and now Canva that they create basically Affinity Bridge or Canva Bridge. They haven't done that yet. They haven't said yes, they haven't said no. But if it's going to happen, it's going to be a while. And it's certainly not built into the application. What now might make a lot of sense, now Canva own them, is that Canva has quite an online library situation going on. If we could hook into that, where you could put your images up on Canva in your account and then have access to it, that might work. But in the meanwhile, I think, to be honest, even if that happened, I would probably still use Eagle. So that is what I use.
Right. Next question. Oh, before I forget, Dato Bagu has given you a $10 super chat.
Thank you very much. That is much appreciated. We hardly get any of those, do we? So that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay. John Sampson says, does text wrap work with irregularly shaped images?
Yes, it does. So if you wanted... Now, when you say irregularly shaped images, I did cover that in photo books or advanced photo books. But yes, you can do that. Let me see if I can quickly show you with an image that I've got here. Let's hide Eagle. Where's Finder gone? Back you come. I think I've got an image in here that I could demonstrate it with. There we go. Do you mean something like that? Now, if you look at that, the text frame is right across the Eiffel Tower, but the text is not. And that is because I have edited the wrap on the Eiffel Tower image. So let's see that. Put one of those in, and I can't duplicate that. I'd have to re-add it. I'll have to re-add it, because if I duplicate it, it's going to duplicate it with the thing, isn't it? Right. Let me... I should really drink my own champagne, shouldn't I? And do it right. So let's put that inside the frame and move it to the right-hand side. So if what I wanted there was to have some text, the text I can copy. So let's go up there, copy that text frame. By default, that's what happens. Right, now this image for a start needs its opacity changing. So we can actually read the text, but we still can't read it over the tower. So what I would need to do in here is make sure, so I'm going to turn the text off just so we can't see it. But what I'm going to do in here is edit the wrap on it. So if I go to wrap, if I spelt it right, here we go again. Right, wrap. No, I put swap. That's what's wrong with it. Crying out loud. I after 2.5 hours, I've lost the ability to type, clearly. Right, text wrap. Edit wrap outline. Now, we've been using show text wrap settings. Right, this time we want to edit it. Now, if we look at that, the corners have changed. And we can move these in like this. So if I toggle that on, you can see what's happening. Right, so I need this to look much better than that. What I can do is move the points, but I can also here change it by bending it like this. So now this has a custom wrap on it, like that. And even if the text is over the top of it, it will wrap around it. So the wrap in that case I put on the picture frame, and it's pushing the text away from it. Now you may say to me, well, why can't you just edit the shape that the text is in? Indeed, I could. But if this was, let's say this is a brochure, a holiday brochure, and you've handed it off to the client, and the client changes the image from the Eiffel Tower to something else, then you wouldn't want the shape to be for the Eiffel Tower. Let's say it was the London Eye. So now you want the text to go like in a circle around it. Then you'd need to change the entire frame, which you wouldn't if the wrap was on the image. So that's why I do it that way. But either way would work. You could edit the frame that the text is in to go round the Eiffel Tower. It doesn't matter. What you end up with is exactly the same. The second reason I would use this one is, one, you might change the image, and two, the text frame might be coming from the master page, and therefore you don't want to size it or change it in the master page because it would ripple through to every other page. So this way I can have the frame that the text is in exactly the same as the frame on all the other pages, but it's wrapping around the content of the page. So that is what I would do with that. Okay.
Right, Mark says, where do you find the pinning window?
Right, let's have a look. I cheat and use Raycast. What you can do is click on help, type pinning, and it will tell you where it is. Right, it's under window, text, pinning. So all of the panels are available from the Windows menu, but they've been regrouped, and in fact all of the menus have been redone for the latest version of Affinity. So because of that, when I'm working, for two reasons, when I'm actually using Affinity, I use an application called Raycast and a feature called Search Menu Options. And that is the fastest way for me to work. The second benefit of that is that you can see in the middle of the screen what menu item I'm accessing. So if I wanted to turn that pinning panel on, how I would actually do it is I have a shortcut key which brings up search menu items, and it's showing me all of the menu items inside Affinity. I would then type pinning, and it would show me that that is on window, text, pinning, but all I have to do is press enter and it activates the command. It activates the menu option, and I don't need to know where it is. So I'm future-proofed for the next time they move all the menu items around. If you are on a Mac, that works today. If you are on Windows, Raycast is currently in beta, and hopefully they will add that feature. The other way to do it, if you don't want to use Raycast and you can't find something in the menu, is to go to Help, and you will find at the top a search bar. That search bar is not searching the Help portal, it's searching the menu. So if I was looking for where the filler text was, I can start typing filler and it tells me it's under Insert Filler Text. But I don't even need to remember that and then go and find it. Because if I move down with the arrow keys, it will show me where that menu option is. Now you can see at the moment, I'm not in the right mode to insert filler text, but that is how the option works. I don't know if that is available in Windows because I haven't looked. But if you're using Windows and you're with us in the chat, let me know. Can you go to the help menu and type that in or not? Now, the reason that I moved away from using that, because I used it for years, was Affinity broke it with an update. And I thought they'll fix it, eventually. I did check that it was an Affinity issue, and it was. And I checked the forums were going crazy. And I thought, well, I didn't realise so many people use that feature. But obviously it wasn't critical to Affinity, and it didn't negatively impact anything other than productivity. You could still use the app. Nothing was broken in the app. It took them quite a while to fix it. By then, I was tearing my hair out, and I thought, hang on, I could use Raycast to do exactly the same thing. And once I did that, that was it. So that's how I work. And like I said, the second benefit is that users who are watching me demonstrate, you can see the menu come up on the screen. Okay, so that's how I do that, and that's where it is.
Joe says, can we have pinning as default instead of manually adding?
In terms of you add a frame and it pins it, no, not that I'm aware of, because you would have to tell it where to pin. So it would depend. You may not be in the right mode when you try and pin it. The way you just have, because it's a manual thing, telling it where to pin it. So I don't think that would actually work. It's a nice idea. The best I've come up with is the assets where you drag it on and then you just instantly pin it to where you want it to be pinned. Everything else is then automated. The style and the caption and the frame text is all there. Everything you need is there, apart from you just need to drag and drop the image in and pin it where you want it. That's the fastest way I've found to work.
Okay. SFN says, filler text. Could you copy and paste it so you can work with it?
I don't think you can copy and paste filler text. This that I've done, this is manual text, the quick brown fox jumped over the dogs. But proper filler text, you can do more with it than you used to be able to. Let's get a text frame. And I think there's some options as well. But if you go into there and you insert filler text, I think you can format it now. I don't think you used to be able to. You can go in and put headings in it. So you could put a heading in there like that, but this is still filler text underneath it. You could, once you've got your heading in there, apply a style to it. And that would work. In terms of, can you copy that and paste it somewhere else? Let's have a look. It pastes in. Let's find out if we can pin something to it. So let's get that and our pinning. And it's pinning to the top one, so it's even pinning to the wrong thing. So that isn't going to work. Right, let's down here make that active. But we actually need to select that to pin it, don't we? And it's twanging back to the first one, so no, it doesn't look good, does it? If you've got 2 frames, you want to pin to this one. Can we select that and then... not looking decent. No, I would... You can do things with it. Let me show you what's in the preferences. Right, so in here I had... Right, filler text, where's your options? Under general. Oh, I do wish you'd do it properly and just filter it out, not just leave me sat here looking at this. Normalize breaks, blah, blah, blah. There is some options in here with filler text. I thought they might have had. There we go, filler text. So I'm using the default filler text, but you can in here insert different text, and then when you say insert filler text, it will use your text. That's one thing you can do. I've not really bothered with that. First off, I couldn't get it working. That was with Affinity Publisher 2, I think when it first came out. I couldn't get it working correctly, but it worked on another machine. So I just leave it alone and just use my own filler text. You can put in there what you like. You can factory reset it. You can save it as the default, and that is what would make it use yours. But in terms of, there's just niggly gotchas with using filler text rather than using your own filler text. Now, there's benefits as well. If you use their filler text and you extend the frame, it will add to it. With your own filler text, you've got to keep adding it manually. But there's too many gotchas for me, and it's too easy to forget that the pinning doesn't work if it's filler text. So I sat there for 5 minutes thinking, what's wrong with this? Oh, hang on, I remember that. What was the issue? So once I twigged, I thought, I'm just not going to use filler text. I'm just not going to use that anymore. Because if I then want to make a layout, I can't use pinning. And obviously that's important when I'm making a template for somebody to use. So I would steer away from it myself. What else have we got?
Mark says the help menu doesn't exist in Affinity on Windows 11.
That's annoying because wasn't there talk of them adding it in Windows 11?
Don't know.
Not Affinity. I think it needs to be added at the system level. Well, there's not much I can do about that, I'm afraid, but hopefully when Raycast is released for Windows, it will have the same menu option. That's the best I can do with that one.
Right. Mike says, do you have any idea why serif Canva made filler text have this can't flexibly pin behavior?
I think it's just the way it works, because if you think about it, it's not... I don't think it was a deliberate let's annoy everybody, put it like that. I think it's more likely that because the text expands and contracts, it's like magic text. There's some operation that's going on with that text that means if you were allowed to pin to it, the pinning could break. It's just the way it works. I think the most important thing is that you know that you would have problems with it because it's not clear why you can't move the pin. That's the issue. It's not clear that you can't move the pin. Once you know you can't move the pin on filler text, then your choice is you'll either leave the pinning until later or use your own filler text. If I'm making templates for customers, I use my own filler text because otherwise I can't pin it. They're capable of deleting some of the text, so I would put like pinning points in it, but they would be lost if they took out the filler text, and it would take them longer to add the pinning back. So it's just the way that it works. I don't think there's anything they could do about that. Now, having said that, maybe they could, because they did make changes that you can go in and put your headings in it now and you can format it. So maybe in a future update, but I wouldn't think it was a priority at the moment. Hopefully the light view will be a priority for everybody who is demanding it. I don't use light view, but let me know in the chat if you use light view. Do you prefer light view? What else have we got?
Christian says, is there something wrong? I just checked and still have the cat tool.
Oh, no, I haven't got the cat tool. Cat tool only appears at certain points, which is Friday the 13th and Halloween that I'm aware of. So I don't know. Maybe it's time zone related.
John says, how to move the pointer on the call-out shape.
Pointer on the call-out shape. Do you mean the pin?
I don't know.
Let me open the file. Let me move that out of the way. Let me get that over there because it's annoying. Right. Let me get the file. Time machine file. I lost my mouse pointer again. Image captions. Time machine. Right. Move the pin. Right. So here, when I pinned these, I pinned them to the end of that. So all I do to move the pin, obviously this is a H1, so the pin's huge, is just drag and move it like that. If that's what you mean, that's how you move it. That's the problem if it's filler text, because the pin is in the top left-hand corner and you can't move it. Initially, I thought when it didn't move, I thought, oh, am I not clicking the right bit? Can you click down here? Yes, you can. I think it's just easier to click like the top of the lollipop there. But yeah, that's how you move it, if that's what you mean. If not, let me know.
Okay, John says speech bubble.
A speech bubble.
I don't know if that's related to what you've just been talking about. Because it was John that asked the question about moving the pointer.
I've got no, you're going to need to give me a little bit more. If you mean the shape of a speech bubble, is that what you mean? But other than that, I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Okay.
Do we have anything else?
Ali has the cat tool, but Ricardo doesn't.
You see, it's bizarre. Maybe it's a special day in your location.
John says speech bubble equals call out with pointer.
Oh, a call out with a pointer. I don't know. I haven't done that in a long time. Leave that one with me. Make a note of that, Mike.
Right.
I will have a look and find out.
Right. Liana says, if you create a custom shape that you plan to reuse regularly, can you add it to the shapes menu, or better to add to assets?
You can't extend the shapes menu, but you could add it as an asset.
Right. Next one.
Or a symbol if you want, but bear in mind symbols travel with the file. Go on, next one.
Is it possible to make a shape into a picture frame if it contains solid elements such as stained glass window, where the placed image would be the colours? The P frame, the lead bits. The picture frame,
I'm
the
with
lead
you.
bits.
Possibly. It would potentially be tricky. You might need to nest them. Make a note of that one as well, and I'll try it, Mike. I'll try it and let you know.
Right. Okay.
In essence, that would be two. You would have the image that would be the glass, and you would have another image that would be the frame. And one would go behind the other. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. I will test it and let you know.
Right. Can you save, Corey says, can you save the custom frames as PDF and sell them for edit on Canva? In Canva.
I would suspect so. If they're custom in terms of you've made them, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. And you can obviously make them with Canva as well if you want. There's nothing in the license that would stop you doing that. So you should be able to do that.
Right. Elisa says the cat tool is hidden, but click on the shape tool with Option or Shift and it appears.
Oh, right. Let's have a look at that then. Right. Where's the thing there? There you go. He's there at the bottom. There he is. So I'm holding the Option key down. So you need the Option key to access the cat. But the cat automatically appears depending on the day of whatever. So you do that, select that, and draw a cat out. And now the time machine's got a cat. There you go. What you will not have access to is version 1 of the cat, where he used to slink along. This is the new cat, the cheeky-faced cat. Okay, so yeah, that works.
Okay. Right. Christian says, when setting an inside bleed for the dog in a multi-page spread, what with other pages which have a different coloured page background? Will those backgrounds not bleed to the other page?
Never tried it. I've never tried it, so I don't know. I would say most of the time it will work. But in that circumstance, possibly not. I'll make a note of that and I'll try that as well. See what happens with it.
Okay.
I did put an image. I didn't do a full page spread, but I did do an image that went across 2 pages. And the background was black on one, and it was fine, wasn't it? All printed out fine. Right, what else have you got?
Just a minute. I'm copying that. Joe says, I never understand why there is a difference for images and illustrations.
I used it just purely for demonstration purposes. I could have put poetry. It wouldn't have mattered what word I used. I would say images are where, if you think about what I had in the time machine, the images were images of things like the Sphinx and actual images. And the illustrations were more like gears and stuff like that. But basically in Word, you can... What does Word come with by default, Mike? You use Word more than I do. Hardly ever use Word. All right, let's have a document here. Right, where are the captions? Where do I find them?
I don't know.
Oh, crying out loud. Let's have a look. Insert. Anybody got any ideas? I don't use this much at all.
Me neither.
Bookmarks, cross-reference, caption. Way! Right, so in the captions in here, you get to choose the label. And the label comes with equations. So you could have a table of equations, figures, or table. But the thing is, it's customizable as well. So you get the option to say new label. So if I go in there and say illustration, right, if I could spell it, fingers that have gone, right, then it says illustration 1. Now you can do all of that in Affinity, but I think this dialog box has spoilt people into thinking that because Affinity doesn't have a dialog box like that, you can't do it. And you can, it's just a lot more moving parts to glue together to make it work. But you could have that saying anything you wanted. I mean, that's particularly important if it's in a foreign language and you don't want it to say figure or, image. You want it to say something in a foreign language and you just extend it in there. So that is now, you could have in here a caption that was an illustration. And then I'm presuming, can we pop that in? I could go down there and do the same again. So insert a caption. But this time, instead of it being illustration 2, it could be figure. And then I can put that in. So obviously that is a much easier way of doing it. It's one single dialog box, which I've just extended with the word illustration. But it doesn't matter. The word doesn't matter. It can be anything you like. Word comes with 3, but I've seen tables of stuff that have gone on. There's like 8 different tables of references. It could be a reference rather than using endnotes. It could be anything that you want. And you can do everything that you can do in Word and more besides, but you have to understand how it works and how many different features are operating together to make it work. Okay, what else we got?
Alex says, with the cottage in its original position, could you place a custom image frame around the shape of the cottage placed between the main image and the text frame and word wrap it?
Yes, you could. You could do exactly what you saw me do with the Eiffel Tower image. So yes, you could do something with that if you literally can't move it. The whole point of that demo was, let's just move it. It's easy enough to move if you can just edit that image. It's not a difficult edit, that. Possibly in this day and age, you might even ask ChatGPT to do it, or your AI. You may even have got the image from AI in the first place. In which case, if you were asking AI for an image, give it the coordinates that you don't want it to place the thing in. Tell it where to place the cottage if you're doing it that way. Or you could upload it and ask it to move it, which might, with something like Gemini, with Nano Banana, might be faster than you doing it. Obviously, I've been doing this for years and years. I can move that cottage as soon as look at it. But if you look at it and think, oh, go on, what did I have to do again? And it's a 2-step process. You clone the cottage and then you repair it out of the image. It might well be faster to just get the AI to do it. But yeah, if you want to work around it, you can do.
Okay, Christian says, is it possible to create a table of images, but with the captions hidden on the actual pages?
Oh, that should work. Let's have a look. Let's get rid of Word. It's freaking me out. Right, let's delete that. Right, so we've got our table of illustrations. So let's go get an illustration like that one. And what you can do in here, this is the group, remember, but at the bottom, you've got the caption itself. So you could turn the caption off like that. If we then go back up here, what we would hope is that you get to see caption 3, I think that was caption 3, when you update it, even though it's hidden. So let's do an update. So yes, you can. I would have expected that you could, because it's there on the page. It's just that you're not seeing it. Now, I did that with a file called Visit Scotland, and I had a full page, multi-page spread of an image, and there was no text on it. And I needed to link to that page. So I put some text on it that said, Glasgow University, I think it was. And I hid the text. And it also worked as a destination for a hyperlink. So whether it's hidden or not does not impact whether it shows in the table of contents or not.
Okay. Jamie says, is there a quick way where if you have a folder of images that you could make a book of the contents without doing each page manually?
Yes, I demonstrated that. I demonstrated that in either photo books or advanced photo books. You can have a folder full of images and you can do one of 2 things. You can, see how many images I've got here. How many images have I got in a folder? Yeah, one's not going to demonstrate it very well, is it? Oh, I've got three cats there. Right, let's take these 3 cats on linked images. Right, I know this is only 3, but the principle's there, isn't it? Right, let's get a new file. You'll do. Right, so what you can do is you can go to File and Place, and then go and get the images. So these are the 3 images. So in here, I select all the images. Now, there could be 3, there could be 300, doesn't matter. And then click Open. That opens up a special Place panel. And in there, you've got the 3 images. And then what you can do is draw them out. So there's the first one going in. That leaves me the other two. I could then decide where I want to put those. If I wanted to place him first, I just select it so he's got the blue selection and draw it out and do that. Now, the other thing you can do is get it to automatically place those for as many images as you've got. And so if you've got 300 images, it would make 300 pages. You have to think about that, though, that a photo book with, more than 20 images in, where every page looks the same, gets a little bit monotonous. But you can do it if you want. If you've got the frames already there, you just need to click the frames, and you can do that. There was a demo I did when version 2 came out. I don't think it was 2.0. I think it was 2 point something. And they added in the ability to load them into your mouse pointer, like you saw me just do with those 3, and then start drawing them out into a grid. But you need 5 hands on the keyboard to make that really work very well. But you can actually do that. But yeah, there's things you can do to speed that up. Another option, which is like, it's not that advanced, but it might feel it to you, is if you have something like a repeatable job, so think like a yearbook. A yearbook is going to have, 300 headshots in it. Right. Obviously, you're going to need the captions underneath to be the name of the person and whatever. But if what you don't want is to go through the images with here's image 1 and here's image 2, and you're still going at image 300, there's nothing to stop you to map the names of the people to a number and have a file that has in 300 placeholders with images in them. All the same, this would, I'll do this as a demo if you like. It would take longer than I've got to do right now. But you could have 300 placeholder images that are linked, not embedded. And then all you would need to do is swap out the image for an image with the same name, and you would have 300 images straight away. Just by swapping the images out. It would be that fast. But that's a workflow thing. That's a productive workflow thing. So once you've mastered all of the features that you need in Affinity, you then really do need to step back and think about the workflow and what the best workflow is. So if you want multiple pages with different layouts, that's more manual. But if it's something like a catalogue or it's something like headshots, another option for that would obviously be a data merge and just data merge the images in. You could, even after you'd data merged it, move them around if you want. So it's just a matter of thinking what the best workflow is in your specific circumstances. What else we got?
Right, last question, unless any more come in, but last question from Alexander. I just joined. I noticed that the total ink pre-flight isn't working for me with standard image files. However, if I save that image as an AF file and then link it back into the document, the pre-fly works correctly, highlighting the ink limit overages, just like in InDesign. Is this the intended behavior or a known workaround?
I'd have thought that was the intended behavior. It might just not be able to do that with an image that isn't an Affinity file. It could just be, if it's a JPEG or a PNG, it just doesn't do it. Maybe that is something they would add in the future, maybe not. It sounds like it's just not going to do it at the moment. If it's behaving with an Affinity file, one option you've got is to take all your images and do a batch convert. So if, like my cat images here, you can, from your options, do an image process, and in here you have a batch job. So what you can do in there is go and add your images. So that's my image source, those. And again, it doesn't matter if there's 300. And just say save as an Affinity file. You can specify height and width, etc. if you need to. And just click OK. It will then show you the batch panel. And what has happened off screen is that we now have that, and that as Affinity files. So at least you wouldn't have to do the manual conversion side of it. You can do a batch convert. Hopefully that helps.
Karen says, is that workflow the same as you did in labels for name tags?
Is what workflow?
I presume that's the one you've just shown.
The data merge one.
Yeah. The one for Jammy.
The data merge I demonstrated in data merge. I have demonstrated the manual click, 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 and it will add the images in. I can't remember whether that was a session or whether it was a Map Bites After Hours. I'm not sure. But I have done data merge. You'll find that deep dive data merge in Affinity by Canva. And yes, I did do images that day. I did badges, if you remember. Didn't we get embroiled with whether they should have clickable links on the badges, as I recall it?
Thanks.
Yes, it was a demo. But yes, I did do images in that one. So if you watch that, you would get an idea how to do the data merge with images.
That's it.
And that's it. Last question. Excellent. Okay, why have you moved on? Oh, it's doing weirdness again. There we go. Right, okay, so next week's, remember, is Mastering Master Pages. Who's looking forward to that one? Let me know in the chat. Right, I'm whizzing down to the chat. Excellent. Okay. So we've got all of the questions. I will be heading off for some of Mike's wonderful sausage rolls. If you want the recipe, we did that in the sausage rolls one. So I'm looking forward to that today. Excellent. Right, John saying data merge is brilliant. Saved you on a mega problem. Excellent. Excellent. Data merge it can go far beyond what you would imagine when data merge used to be called mail merge. Back in the day when I very first learnt mail merge, it literally was mail merge. It was standard form letters. And I learnt it from the WordPerfect manual. Do you remember back in the day, Mike, when manuals were in binders? They were that big. And I looked at it and I thought, what on earth is this thing? And, you know, if you're thinking of it in terms of standard letters, envelopes, labels, don't limit yourself. I make bingo cards with it, where I have 25 fields on a page and all 25 change on the next page. But you could also do it a different way, where you have one record on a page and that changes on the next page. And it doesn't matter whether it's badges, labels, doesn't matter what it is. Literally doesn't matter what it is. It could be a photo book and it would still work. So yeah, if you've not checked out data merge, check out data merge. It's really useful. Okay, we will head off. I'm seeing cameras appear and everything. Oh, Robert, hang on, J. Roberts 264 learned from WordPerfect as well. That was in the day when a manual was a manual, wasn't it? In fact, I can still tell you what the data was. It was a summer camp. The whole day. You remember? Was it Tradewinds that was in Access? Northwind. They had standard data, Microsoft, and WordPerfect had this standard data, and it was a summer camp. Now, we don't really, back then, we didn't really have summer camps in the UK for kids, did we? We do now, but not as much as you do in America. And it was a camping thing, and you were sending out this form letter to tell them which tent they'd been allocated. It was fantastic. But, you know, just having that data, you knew why you were doing it. But obviously time has moved on and now we can use the feature for so many different things. It's magic. It's magic what it can do. But you do have to link the features together or take the feature further than was maybe intended. You know, just because it can do form letters doesn't mean that that's the only thing it can do. Right, okay. We are going to head off. Thank you very much, Renee, saying we're great hosts. At nearly 3 hours. As long as I get out in the next 2 minutes, it'll be less than 3 hours. So, you know, we don't want to put people off, do we? Oh, we don't want to put off the brigade that say, can you do brain surgery in 30 seconds? Oh, no, heaven forbid we do that. No, we do it right. So at the end of it, you can actually do something, which is fantastic. So it's just clocked round to 58. So I will say a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.